Imagine a world where giants walked the earth, where creatures the size of buildings shook the ground with every step, where predators with teeth like railroad spikes ruled vast prehistoric landscapes, and where the sky was filled with flying reptiles that dwarfed modern aircraft. This was the age of dinosaurs, a reign of terror and magnificence that lasted for over 165 million years and shaped our planet in ways we're only beginning to understand. For more than 3 times longer than humans have existed, dinosaurs dominated every corner of our world. From the tiniest feathered hunters no bigger than chickens to the colossal long-necked titans that stretched longer than blue whales, these remarkable creatures evolved into forms so diverse and extraordinary that they seem almost mythical to us today. But dinosaurs weren't mythical. They were real, living, breathing animals that faced the same challenges that all life faces: finding food, avoiding predators, reproducing, and adapting to an ever-changing world. Their story is one of incredible innovation, devastating extinctions, remarkable comebacks, and evolutionary experiments that push the boundaries of what's possible in the animal kingdom. Today, over 66 million years after the last non-avian dinosaurs vanished from the earth, we're still discovering new species, still uncovering new secrets about how they lived, and still marveling at their incredible diversity. Every year, paleontologists around the world dig up fossils that rewrite our understanding of these ancient giants, revealing details about their behavior, their physiology, and their place in the grand story of life on Earth, from the smallest beginnings in the shadow of earlier reptiles to the massive creatures that dominated the Mesozoic era. From the first tentative steps toward flight to the catastrophic asteroid impact that ended their reign. This is the complete story of dinosaur evolution. A tale of survival, innovation, and the endless creativity of life itself. This is the story of how a small group of archosaur reptiles became the most successful land animals in Earth's history, and how their legacy continues to soar through our skies today in the form of birds. This is the story of the dinosaurs. Chapter 1. The world before Dinosaurs story begins not with dinosaurs, but with the greatest catastrophe in the history of life on Earth. 252 million years ago, our planet was a very different place, a world dominated by ancient reptiles and mammal-like creatures, where vast deserts stretched across the supercontinent. Pangean life had evolved forms both familiar and utterly alien to modern eyes. The late Permian world was a place of extremes. The massive supercontinent Pangaea created continental interiors so vast and dry that they supported only the hardiest forms of life. Along the coastlines and in river valleys, however, life flourished in remarkable diversity. Massive amphibians lurked in steamy swamps, while early reptiles had begun to colonize the drier uplands. The dominant land animals of this time were the synapsids, the lineage that would eventually give rise to mammals. These creatures had evolved sophisticated adaptations for terrestrial life, including improved jaw mechanics, differentiated teeth, and the beginnings of the hair and warm-bloodedness that characterize modern mammals. Some synapsids, like the metrodon with its distinctive sailback, had become apex predators ruling Permian ecosystems. But among the synapsids lived another group of reptiles that would prove even more significant for our story: the early archosaurs. These were unremarkable animals at the time, mostly small, lizard-like creatures that scurried through the undergrowth of Permian forests. They possessed certain anatomical features: improved posture, more efficient locomotion, and enhanced respiratory systems that would prove crucial in the trials to come. The Permian period was drawing to a close in apparent prosperity. Ecosystems were complex and well-established, with intricate food webs supporting everything from tiny arthropods to massive herbivores. Marine life was equally diverse, with ancient coral reefs, vast shellfish beds, and swimming reptiles filling the world's oceans. Life seemed to have achieved a stable, sustainable equilibrium, but deep beneath the surface, forces were building that would soon tear this world apart. In what is now Siberia, massive magma chambers were growing larger and larger, fed by deep mantle plumes that carried unimaginable amounts of molten rock toward the surface. The pressure was building toward a volcanic catastrophe of unprecedented scale. The eruptions, when they began, were like nothing in recorded human experience. For over 1 million years, the Siberian Traps volcanism poured forth lava, ash, and toxic gases on a scale that dwarfs any modern volcanic event. An area larger than Alaska was buried under basaltic lava flows up to 2 miles thick. But the lava was only the beginning of the catastrophe. The real killer was the gas. Along with the lava came massive emissions of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and other toxic compounds. These gases poisoned the atmosphere and fundamentally altered Earth's climate system. Carbon dioxide levels soared, triggering runaway global warming. Sulfur compounds created acid rain that poisoned terrestrial and marine ecosystems alike. The oceans began to change in ways that were catastrophic for marine life. Rising temperatures and chemical changes reduced the amount of oxygen dissolved in seawater, creating vast dead zones where nothing could survive. Ocean acidification, caused by the absorption of atmospheric carbon dioxide, began dissolving the shells and skeletons of marine organisms. On land, the effects were equally devastating. Acid rain stripped vegetation from the landscape, while extreme temperatures and toxic atmospheric conditions made survival nearly impossible for most animals. The complex food webs that had taken millions of years to evolve collapsed in a geological instant. This was the Permian-Triassic extinction event, also known as the Great Dying, the most severe biodiversity crisis in Earth's history. In just a few thousand years, roughly 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates vanished forever. Entire ecosystems were eliminated. The trilobites, which had been among the most successful animals in Earth's oceans for nearly 300 million years, finally went extinct. Most of the synapsid lineages that had dominated Permian terrestrial ecosystems disappeared. For millions of years after the Great Dying, Earth remained a harsh, nearly lifeless wasteland. The few survivors clung to existence in a world that seemed determined to destroy them. Recovery was slow and uncertain, with several false starts, as environmental conditions remained unstable. But among the survivors were small populations of archosaurs, the reptile group that would eventually give rise to crocodiles, pterosaurs, and dinosaurs. These early archosaurs had survived the Great Dying through a combination of luck, physiological advantages, and behavioral flexibility. Their improved respiratory systems, more efficient locomotion, and dietary flexibility had given them crucial advantages during the extinction crisis. The early Triassic world that emerged from the extinction was harsh and simplified. Ecosystems were dominated by just a few hardy species that could tolerate the extreme conditions. The climate remained hot and dry, with frequent droughts and unpredictable weather patterns. But slowly, very slowly, life began to recover and diversify once again. The archosaurs were among the first groups to begin expanding into the ecological niches left vacant by the extinction. Their superior locomotor abilities allowed them to cover large distances in search of food and water. Their improved respiratory systems helped them cope with the challenging atmospheric conditions. Most importantly, their behavioral flexibility allowed them to exploit whatever resources became available. The stage was being set for the rise of the archosaurs, and ultimately for the emergence of dinosaurs. The Great Dying had cleared the way, eliminating the dominant synapsid lineages. and creating opportunities for new groups to evolve and diversify. The archosaurs were about to inherit the Earth. Chapter 2. The Rise of the ARCHOSAURS, ARS in the Aftermath of the Great Dying. The early Triassic world was a place of harsh extremes and limited opportunities. But for the archosaurs, the group of reptiles that would eventually give rise to dinosaurs, crocodiles, and pterosaurs, this devastated world represented not an ending, but a beginning. The extinction had cleared away their competitors and opened up ecological niches that would drive one of the most remarkable adaptive radiations in the history of life. The early Triassic landscape was unlike anything on Earth today. Vast stretches of red sandstone and mudstone stretched to the horizon, broken only by scattered patches of primitive vegetation. Rivers meandered across broad floodplains, their banks lined with the first forest to recover from the extinction. The climate was hot and arid, with intense seasonal variations that challenged every living thing in this harsh world. The surviving archosaurs began to experiment with new ways of life. Unlike their Permian ancestors, which had been small, generalized insectivores, the Triassic archosaurs began to diversify into a variety of ecological niches. Some became larger and more predatory, while others evolved herbivorous lifestyles. Most importantly, they began to improve upon the anatomical innovations that would eventually make dinosaurs so successful. The key to archosaur success lay in their superior locomotor system. While most other reptiles of the time retained the sprawling gait inherited from their ancient ancestors, archosaurs were evolving a more upright posture. Their legs were positioned more directly beneath their bodies, allowing for more efficient movement and greater endurance. This might seem like a small change, but its implications were enormous. Better posture meant that archosaurs could move faster and farther than their competitors while expending less energy. They could pursue prey more effectively, escape from predators more successfully, and migrate to new areas when local conditions became unfavorable. In a world where resources were scarce and unpredictable, these advantages were often the difference between survival and extinction. Archosaur respiratory systems were also undergoing important improvements during this period. They were developing more efficient lung structures and the beginnings of the air sac systems that would later reach their full development in birds. These respiratory innovations allowed archosaurs to extract oxygen more efficiently from the atmosphere and maintain higher levels of activity than their competitors. The heart structure of archosaurs was becoming more sophisticated as well. While most reptiles have three-chambered hearts that allow some mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, archosaurs were evolving toward the four-chambered hearts that would eventually characterize dinosaurs and their bird descendants. This innovation allowed for more efficient circulation and better oxygen delivery to active tissues. As the Triassic period progressed, these physiological advantages allowed archosaurs to begin outcompeting the therapsids, mammal-like reptiles that had survived the Permian extinction. The therapsids had many advanced characteristics, including hair, sophisticated jaw mechanics, and possibly even warm-bloodedness. But they were constrained by their more primitive locomotor systems and were gradually pushed into smaller body sizes and more specialized ecological niches. The Middle Triassic saw the emergence of the first truly large archosaurs. Rauisuchians, massive crocodile-like predators, became the apex carnivores in many ecosystems. Some species, like Saurolophus, reached lengths of over 7 meters and dominated their environments like terrestrial versions of modern crocodiles. These formidable predators possessed powerful jaws, lined with sharp teeth and robust limb bones that supported their massive bulk. At the same time, other archosaur lineages were experimenting with herbivory. The Dinosaurs developed heavy armor, plating, and specialized teeth for processing plant material. These tank-like animals became the dominant large herbivores in many Triassic ecosystems, filling ecological roles that would later be occupied by dinosaurs. The late Triassic witnessed the emergence of an archosaur group that would prove particularly significant: the ornithodorans. These were the archosaurs more closely related to birds than to crocodiles, and they possessed a suite of anatomical innovations that would prove crucial for the evolution of dinosaurs. Ornithodorans had developed highly specialized ankle joints that functioned as simple hinges, providing both strength and flexibility for rapid locomotion. Their hip sockets were open rather than closed, allowing for more efficient movement of the leg bones. Their necks were longer and more flexible than those of other archosaurs, and their tails were muscular and well developed for balance and propulsion. Perhaps most importantly, many ornithodorans had become fully bipedal. This transition to two-legged locomotion freed the forelimbs from their role in supporting body weight, allowing them to be modified for other functions like grasping prey, manipulating objects, or eventually, flight. Bipedalism also allowed for more efficient high-speed locomotion and better visibility in open environments. The early ornithodorans were small, agile animals that lived primarily in forested environments. Species like Marsuchus and Logopton were no larger than house cats, but they possessed all the key anatomical features that would later characterize dinosaurs. Their long legs were built for running, their hands were equipped with sharp claws for grasping, and their skulls housed relatively large brains for processing complex sensory information. These early ornithodorans were experimenting with new hunting strategies that took advantage of their superior mobility, rather than the sit-and-wait ambush tactics used by many other predators. Ornithodorans were becoming active pursuit hunters. They could chase down prey across open ground, pursue climbing animals into trees, and exploit food sources that were inaccessible to less mobile predators. The success of ornithodorans was also driven by their behavioral innovations. Evidence suggests that some species may have lived in social groups, coordinated their hunting activities, and even engaged in primitive forms of cooperative behavior. These social tendencies would later become important characteristics of many dinosaur lineages. Plant communities were also recovering and diversifying during the Triassic, providing new opportunities for herbivorous archosaurs. The dominant plants were gymnosperms, conifers, cycads, and ferns that formed increasingly complex forest ecosystems. These plants provided abundant food for herbivores, but they also presented new challenges in terms of processing tough, fibrous plant material. Climate during the late Triassic was becoming warmer and more humid as atmospheric carbon dioxide levels rose and global temperatures increased. This warming trend favored the archosaurs, whose improved physiological systems allowed them to remain active in higher temperatures. The therapsids, many of which may have been warm-blooded, found it increasingly difficult to compete in the hotter conditions. By the end of the Triassic period, archosaurs had become the dominant large land animals in most ecosystems around the world. Rauisuchians ruled as apex predators. Dinosaurs dominated the large herbivore niche, and early pterosaurs had even begun to exploit aerial environments. The stage was set for the next phase of archosaur evolution, the emergence of dinosaurs. The first dinosaurs appeared during this period of archosaur dominance around 230 million years ago. They were initially just one lineage among many successful archosaur groups, but they possessed a combination of characteristics that would eventually allow them to outlast all their relatives and inherit the Earth. Chapter 3. The first Dinosaurs in the humid forests of late Triassic South America. Around 230 million years ago, a small bipedal reptile darted between the towering tree ferns and primitive conifers. No bigger than a large dog, this agile creature moved with the grace and efficiency that set it apart from the other animals of its time. Its name was Eoraptor, and it was one of the very first dinosaurs, a humble beginning for what would become the most successful group of large land animals in Earth's history. Eoraptor, whose name means dawn thief, embodied all the key innovations that would define dinosaurs for the next 165 million years. Standing about 1 meter long and weighing no more than 10 kilograms, it walked upright on two powerful hind legs, its body balanced by a long, muscular tail. Its hip socket was fully open, a perforated acetabulum that allowed for the efficient parasagittal gait that would become the dinosaur. Trademark. The discovery of Eoraptor in the Ischiguasto Formation of Argentina revolutionized our understanding of early dinosaur evolution. When paleontologist Paul Sereno and his team first uncovered its nearly complete skeleton in 1991, they realized they had found something extraordinary, a dinosaur that retained many primitive characteristics while displaying all the key innovations that would define the group. Eoraptor's skull was small and lightly built, with a mix of different tooth types that reflected its varied diet. In the front of its mouth were small, sharp teeth perfect for grasping small prey. Behind these were more leaf-shaped teeth suitable for processing plant material. This dental diversity suggests that Eoraptor was an omnivore, capable of eating everything from small vertebrates and insects to fruits, seeds, and tender plant shoots. This dietary flexibility was crucial for survival in the unpredictable environments of the late Triassic. Climate conditions were variable, and food sources could change rapidly with seasonal shifts or environmental disturbances. An animal that could switch between different food types as availability changed had significant advantages over more specialized feeders. Eoraptor's hands possessed the reduced fourth and fifth digits that would become characteristic of theropod dinosaurs, yet it retained some features that linked it to the broader dinosaur family tree. Its hands were equipped with sharp, curved claws that could be used for grasping prey, manipulating food, or climbing. The combination of manual dexterity and bipedal locomotion would prove to be one of dinosaurs' greatest advantages. That most remarkably, Eoraptor's hip structure showed the classic dinosaurian arrangement, a three-pronged pelvis with the pubis pointing forward and downward, the ilium forming a broad plate above, and the ischium extending backward. This pelvic configuration was fundamentally different from that of other archosaurs and was associated with the efficient bipedal locomotion that would become a dinosaur hallmark. But Eoraptor was not alone in the Triassic forests. Sharing its habitat was another early dinosaur that would prove equally important to our understanding of dinosaur origins, Herrerasaurus. While Eoraptor was small and generalized, Herrerasaurus was large and specialized, a formidable predator that stretched up to 6 meters in length and weighed as much as 350 kilograms. Herrerasaurus represented a very different approach to early dinosaur evolution. Where Eoraptor was cautious and adaptable, Herrerasaurus was bold and predatory. Its massive skull housed dozens of sharp, serrated teeth perfectly designed for slicing through flesh and bone. The teeth were recurved and laterally compressed, with fine serrations along the cutting edges that could saw through even tough hide and muscle. The powerful forelimbs of Herrerasaurus ended in hands equipped with large, curved claws that could grasp and hold struggling prey. Unlike many later theropods that would evolve reduced forelimbs, Herrerasaurus retained long, muscular arms that were clearly functional for predation. These arms could pin down prey while the massive jaws delivered killing bites. Despite its size, biomechanical studies suggest that Herrerasaurus was capable of impressive bursts of speed. Its leg bones show adaptations for powerful muscle attachment, and its foot structure indicates an animal built for rapid acceleration. This combination of size, speed, and weaponry made Herrerasaurus a formidable apex predator in its ecosystem. The existence of both Aoraptor and Herrerasaurus in the same time and place tells us something crucial about early dinosaur evolution. Diversification began almost immediately. Even the very first dinosaurs were experimenting with different body sizes, diets, and ecological strategies. This evolutionary flexibility would prove to be one of dinosaurs' greatest strengths throughout their long reign. The discovery of other early dinosaurs has filled in more details of this initial adaptive radiation. Styracosaurus, another Argentine dinosaur from roughly the same time period, was intermediate in size between Aoraptor and Herrerasaurus, but shared the predatory lifestyle of the larger species. Its elongated skull and sharp teeth indicate a carnivorous diet, while its powerful leg bones suggest an active hunting lifestyle. Piscinosaurus, long thought to be one of the earliest ornithischian dinosaurs, showed that herbivorous dinosaurs had also appeared very early in dinosaur evolution. Its teeth were small and leaf-shaped, perfect for cropping and processing plant material. This early divergence into herbivory demonstrated the rapid ecological diversification that characterized early dinosaur evolution. These early dinosaurs lived in a world that was dramatically different from the one their descendants would inherit. The late Triassic was a time of transition, when dinosaurs were still just one group among many competing archosaur lineages. Massive crocodile relatives, called rauisuchians, dominated many ecosystems as apex predators. Heavily armored ichthyosaurs filled the role of large herbivores. Flying pterosaurs had already taken to the skies. In this competitive environment, the early dinosaurs had to find their own ecological niches. Many remained small and specialized on prey that was too quick or elusive for the larger, more cumbersome archosaurs. Others, like Herrerasaurus, grew large enough to compete directly with rauisuchians for the role of top predator. What made these early dinosaurs special wasn't their immediate ecological dominance, but rather their combination of efficiency and adaptability. Their improved locomotor systems allowed them to move more efficiently than their competitors, giving them advantages in pursuit of prey, escape from predators, and migration between habitats. The respiratory systems of early dinosaurs, inherited from their archosaur ancestors, were becoming increasingly sophisticated. The development of air sac systems, which would later reach their full expression in birds, allowed dinosaurs to extract oxygen more efficiently from the atmosphere. This was particularly important in the late Triassic, when atmospheric oxygen levels were lower than today. Perhaps most importantly, early dinosaurs displayed a behavioral sophistication that set them apart from other archosaurs. Evidence suggests that some species may have lived in social groups, coordinated their activities, and even displayed complex parental care behaviors. Fossil trackways show multiple individuals moving together in the same direction, possibly indicating herd behavior or cooperative activities. The late Triassic world was also a time of significant environmental change. The supercontinent Pangaea was beginning to show signs of the rifting that would eventually break it apart. Volcanic activity was increasing in many regions as tectonic forces began to tear the supercontinent apart. Climate patterns were shifting. As global temperatures continued to rise from their post-Permian lows, these environmental changes created both challenges and opportunities for the evolving dinosaur fauna. Some regions became more arid, favoring dinosaurs adapted to dry conditions. Others became more humid and forested, providing opportunities for arboreal specialists. The increasing environmental diversity drove the evolution of more specialized dinosaur forms. Dinosaurs responded to these environmental pressures with characteristic adaptability. Some lineages became more specialized, developing adaptations for specific dietary niches or environmental conditions. Others remained generalized, maintaining the flexibility to exploit changing conditions and new opportunities. This combination of specialization and generalization would become a recurring theme throughout dinosaur evolution. The social behaviors that began to emerge among early dinosaurs would prove crucial to their later success. Evidence suggests that some species engaged in complex mating displays, territorial behaviors, and even primitive forms of parental care. These behaviors allowed dinosaurs to coordinate their activities more effectively and exploit resources more efficiently than solitary competitors thought. By the end of the Triassic period, dinosaurs had established themselves as important members of terrestrial ecosystems across much of Pangaea. They had diversified into the three major lineages that would define their subsequent evolution: theropods, bipedal carnivores; sauropodomorphs, long-necked herbivores; and ornithischians, diverse herbivores with bird-like hips. Each of these lineages had developed distinct adaptations that would serve them well in the challenges to come. Theropods had refined their predatory capabilities, developing improved sensory systems, more efficient locomotion, and sophisticated hunting behaviors. Sauropodomorphs had begun the evolutionary journey toward gigantism, developing longer necks and more efficient digestive systems. Ornithischians had evolved specialized dental systems for processing tough plant material. But the biggest test of dinosaur resilience was yet to come. At the end of the Triassic period, another mass extinction event would rock the planet, eliminating many of dinosaurs' archosaur competitors and clearing the way for their rise to global dominance. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction would mark the end of the beginning for dinosaur evolution and the start of their golden age. Chapter 4. The TRIASSIC 201 million years ago. As the Triassic period drew to a close, the Earth once again convulsed in geological violence. Massive volcanic eruptions began tearing apart the supercontinent Pangaea, creating what would eventually become the Atlantic Ocean. But this wasn't just continental drift. It was one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history, pumping enormous quantities of lava, ash, and toxic gases into the atmosphere. The Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, as geologists now call this volcanic region, covered an area of over 11 million square kilometers. For roughly 600,000 years, these volcanoes spewed forth lava flows, ash clouds, and poisonous gases that fundamentally altered Earth's climate and ocean chemistry. The scale of volcanism was almost beyond comprehension. If it were to occur today, it would cover most of North America and Europe with molten rock. The environmental consequences were swift and devastating. Carbon dioxide levels soared as volcanic gases pumped greenhouse gases into the atmosphere at unprecedented rates. Global temperatures rose dramatically, with some estimates suggesting increases of up to 10 degrees Celsius in some regions. This rapid warming triggered a cascade of environmental changes that would reshape life on Earth. Acid rain, generated by sulfur compounds from the volcanic eruptions, poisoned terrestrial and marine ecosystems. Plant communities were decimated as acidic precipitation stripped leaves from trees and contaminated soils. Marine environments suffered as ocean chemistry changed rapidly, with rising acidity levels dissolving the shells and skeletons of countless marine organisms. The oceans themselves became hostile to life in ways that paralleled the earlier Permian extinction. Rising temperatures reduced the amount of oxygen that could dissolve in seawater, creating vast dead zones where marine life could not survive. The combination of warming, acidification, and deoxygenation created a triple threat that eliminated entire marine ecosystems. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction event, or TRG extinction, was the fourth of the Big Five mass extinctions in Earth's history. While not as severe as the Great Dying at the end of the Permian, it was still devastating. Roughly 76% of all species went extinct, including many groups that had dominated Triassic ecosystems for millions of years. Among the Victims were most of the large archosaur competitors that had kept dinosaurs from achieving ecological dominance during the Triassic. The Rausuchians, massive crocodile-like predators that had ruled as apex carnivores for over 30 million years, vanished entirely from the fossil record. These formidable hunters, some of which had reached lengths of over 8 meters, simply could not adapt quickly enough to the rapidly changing environmental conditions. The Dinosaurs, heavily armored herbivores that had filled the large plant-eater niche throughout the late Triassic, also disappeared completely. Their armored shells, which had protected them from predators for millions of years, proved useless against the environmental stresses of the extinction event. Even their sophisticated digestive systems, adapted for processing tough plant material, could not help them when plant communities collapsed. Many groups of therapsids, including several advanced cynodont lineages that had survived the earlier Permian extinction, finally succumbed during the TRJ event. These mammal-like reptiles, some of which had already evolved hair and possibly even primitive forms of warm-bloodedness, could not compete with the archosaurs in the harsh post-extinction environment. Even some early dinosaur groups failed to survive the crisis. The Herrerasaurids, including the formidable Herrerasaurus that had been among the largest predators in late Triassic South America, went extinct during this period. Their disappearance demonstrates that even dinosaurs were not immune to the effects of mass extinction events. But while the TRJ extinction was catastrophic for many groups, it proved to be a blessing in disguise for the surviving dinosaurs. The elimination of their major competitors left vast ecological niches vacant, and dinosaurs were perfectly positioned to fill them. Their efficient locomotor systems, advanced respiratory physiology, and behavioral flexibility gave them crucial advantages in the post-extinction world. The physiological advantages that dinosaurs had inherited from their archosaur ancestors proved particularly important during the extinction event. Their advanced respiratory systems, with the beginnings of air sac networks that would later reach full development in birds, allowed them to extract oxygen more efficiently from an atmosphere that had been altered by volcanic gases. Their improved cardiovascular systems, with hearts that were approaching the four-chambered design of modern birds and crocodiles, provided more efficient circulation during times of environmental stress. Their sophisticated thermoregulatory abilities allowed them to maintain stable body temperatures despite fluctuating environmental conditions. Perhaps most importantly, many dinosaurs possessed behavioral flexibility that allowed them to adapt their survival strategies as conditions changed. Unlike the more specialized archosaurs that went extinct, surviving dinosaurs could modify their diets, alter their habitat preferences, and adjust their social behaviors in response to environmental pressures. The early Jurassic period that followed the extinction marked the beginning of dinosaur dominance. Freed from competition with Rausuchians and Dinosaurs, dinosaurs rapidly diversified and expanded into ecological roles that had previously been close to them. Theropod dinosaurs became the dominant large carnivores, while sauropodomorph and ornithischian dinosaurs took over as the primary large herbivores. The transition was not immediate, however. For several million years after the extinction, ecosystems remained simplified and unstable. Plant communities were dominated by ferns and other pioneer species that could rapidly colonize disturbed environments. Animal communities were small and dominated by generalist species that could exploit whatever resources were available. During this recovery period, dinosaurs began to experiment with new body plans and ecological strategies. Some theropods, freed from competition with Rausuchians, began to evolve toward larger body sizes. Early sauropods started developing the elongated necks and specialized digestive systems that would allow their descendants to reach enormous sizes. One of the most successful early Jurassic dinosaurs was Dilophosaurus, a theropod that exemplified the new age of dinosaur predators. Growing up to 7 meters in length, Dilophosaurus was larger and more sophisticated than any Triassic dinosaur. Its distinctive double crest may have been used for display or species recognition, suggesting the evolution of complex social behaviors. The powerful legs of Dilophosaurus and its efficient gait allowed it to pursue prey across the changing Jurassic landscape. Its hands retained the strong grasping claws that characterized early theropods, while its jaws were equipped with sharp, serrated teeth perfect for processing meat. This combination of features made Dilophosaurus an effective predator in the simplified ecosystems of the early Jurassic in the herbivore niche. Early sauropods like Vulcanodon began the evolutionary journey toward gigantism that would define their lineage. These early sauropods were already much larger than their Triassic predecessors, with longer necks and more robust body construction. They had developed the columnar leg bones and specialized vertebrae that would allow their descendants to reach truly enormous sizes. The success of these early sauropods was partly due to their advanced digestive systems. Unlike earlier herbivores, which had relied primarily on simple cropping and minimal food processing, sauropods developed complex digestive strategies that allowed them to extract maximum nutrition from low-quality plant foods. This digestive efficiency would prove crucial as they evolved toward larger body sizes. The TRJ extinction also coincided with another crucial event in Earth's history, the breakup of Pangaea. As the supercontinent began to split apart, new ocean basins formed, climate patterns shifted, and isolated landmasses began to develop their own unique ecosystems. This geographic fragmentation provided countless opportunities for evolutionary experimentation and adaptive radiation. Different continents began to develop distinct dinosaur faunas as populations became isolated by newly formed ocean barriers. In North America, theropods like Colophysis and early sauropomorphs like ARCHOSAURS established the foundation for what would become some of the most famous dinosaur ecosystems in the fossil record. In Europe, early sauropods and diverse theropod communities flourished in the warm, humid climate. The formation of new ocean basins also had profound effects on global climate. The circulation patterns of both atmosphere and oceans were altered as geographic barriers appeared and disappeared. The early Jurassic was characterized by warm, humid conditions with no polar ice caps and high sea levels. These tropical conditions extended much farther toward the poles than today, creating vast areas of suitable habitat for dinosaur colonization. Marine ecosystems also underwent dramatic changes during this period. The extinction had eliminated many groups of marine reptiles, but new forms were beginning to evolve. Early marine crocodiles, plesiosaurs, and ichthyosaurs began to fill the ecological niches left vacant by the extinction. These marine reptiles would become important predators in Jurassic seas. The recovery from the TRJ extinction demonstrated the resilience of life and its capacity to rebuild even after severe environmental disruption. But it also showed that extinction events, while destructive, can be creative forces that open up new evolutionary opportunities and drive the development of entirely new forms of life. By the Middle Jurassic, dinosaurs had firmly established themselves as the dominant large terrestrial vertebrates. Their success was built on a foundation of physiological efficiency, behavioral sophistication, and evolutionary flexibility that would serve them well throughout their long reign. The stage was set for the next phase of dinosaur evolution, the development of truly gigantic forms that would stretch the limits of what's physically possible for land animals. Chapter 5. The Age of Giants. By the Middle Jurassic period, around 170 million years ago, dinosaurs had not only recovered from the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, but had begun an evolutionary experiment that would push the boundaries of animal size beyond anything seen before or since. In the lush, warm world of the Jurassic, where towering conifers and vast fern prairies stretched to every horizon, dinosaurs embarked on a journey toward gigantism that would produce some of the most spectacular creatures ever to walk the earth. The world of the Middle and Late Jurassic was a paradise for large herbivores. Global temperatures were significantly warmer than today, with no polar ice caps and sea levels that were much higher than modern times. Atmospheric carbon dioxide levels were elevated, promoting lush plant growth across most continental areas. The breakup of Pangaea had created new coastlines and inland. Seas conservation efforts are increasingly informed by lessons learned from dinosaur paleobiology, understanding how ancient ecosystems functioned and how they responded to environmental change provides important guidance for protecting modern biodiversity. The story of dinosaur extinction serves as a powerful reminder of what can be lost when environmental pressures exceed the adaptive capacity of living organisms. The search for new dinosaur species continues to yield remarkable discoveries that challenge our understanding of dinosaur diversity and evolution. Every year, paleontologists describe dozens of new dinosaur species from fossils found around the world. These discoveries fill in gaps in our understanding of dinosaur evolution and reveal the extraordinary diversity that characterized Mesozoic ecosystems. Some of the most exciting recent discoveries have come from new fossil sites that preserve exquisite details of dinosaur soft tissues. The Jehol biota of China, the Hell Creek Formation of North America, and the Liaoning deposits have all yielded fossils that preserve feathers, skin, muscle, and even internal organs. These exceptional fossils provide unprecedented insights into dinosaur biology and behavior. The integration of new technologies with traditional paleontological methods is opening unprecedented windows into dinosaur biology. High-resolution CT scanning allows scientists to examine the internal structure of fossils without destroying them, revealing details about brain structure, inner ear anatomy, and respiratory systems. Synchrotron radiation can reveal chemical signatures that provide information about diet, metabolism, and environmental conditions. Particle accelerators are being used to analyze the chemical composition of dinosaur fossils, revealing traces of proteins and other organic compounds that have survived for millions of years. These molecular fossils provide direct evidence about dinosaur physiology and biochemistry that was previously impossible to obtain. Genetic research, while unable to directly examine dinosaur DNA due to its degradation over geological timescales, is providing insights into dinosaur evolution through studies of their bird descendants. By comparing the genomes of different bird species and using molecular clock techniques, scientists can infer aspects of dinosaur evolutionary history and the timing of major evolutionary innovations. The field of paleoproteomics, the study of ancient proteins, is revealing new information about dinosaur biology. Proteins can survive much longer than DNA, and researchers have successfully extracted protein sequences from dinosaur fossils that are over 65 million years old. These ancient proteins provide direct evidence about dinosaur metabolism, growth rates, and the evolutionary relationships. The possibility of de-extinction, using genetic engineering to bring back extinct species, remains largely in the realm of science fiction for non-avian dinosaurs. The degradation of DNA over geological timescales makes it impossible to recover viable genetic material from dinosaur fossils. However, research into the genetic basis of bird characteristics is revealing how evolution modified dinosaur body plans to create modern birds. Some scientists have proposed that it might be theoretically possible to reverse engineer certain dinosaur characteristics in modern birds by manipulating the genes that control development. While this would not truly bring back dinosaurs, They could help us understand how certain dinosaur features evolved and how they might be recreated. Citizen science initiatives are democratizing dinosaur research by involving amateur paleontologists in the discovery and study of fossils. Online platforms allow volunteers to help classify fossils, identify new specimens, and even participate in virtual excavations. These programs not only advance scientific research but also engage the public in the excitement of discovery. The economic impact of dinosaur research extends far beyond academic institutions. The paleotourism industry generates billions of dollars annually as people travel to see dinosaur fossils, visit excavation sites, and experience museum exhibits. This economic activity supports rural communities, funds research, and provides incentives for fossil preservation and protection. Dinosaur-themed attractions, from theme parks to museums to fossil dig experiences, employ thousands of people worldwide and inspire millions of visitors each year. The popularity of dinosaurs in popular culture continues to drive interest in paleontology and earth sciences, creating a positive feedback loop that supports continued research and discovery. International cooperation in dinosaur research has become increasingly important as scientists recognize that understanding dinosaur evolution requires a global perspective. Collaborative projects between researchers from different countries are revealing how dinosaur faunas varied across different continents and how global environmental changes affected dinosaur evolution. The sharing of digital data and 3D models of dinosaur fossils has revolutionized international collaboration. Researchers can now study high-quality digital copies of fossils from anywhere in the world, allowing for more comprehensive comparative studies and reducing the need for expensive travel to examine original specimens. Educational initiatives focused on dinosaurs continue to evolve with new technologies and pedagogical approaches. Virtual reality experiences allow students to walk with dinosaurs in scientifically accurate reconstructions of Mesozoic environments. Augmented reality applications bring dinosaur fossils to life in museum displays. Online platforms provide access to high-quality 3D models of dinosaur skeletons and interactive evolutionary trees. The representation of dinosaurs in popular culture continues to evolve as scientific understanding advances. Modern depictions increasingly show dinosaurs as active, intelligent, and behaviorally complex animals rather than the sluggish monsters of earlier portrayals. This cultural shift reflects and reinforces scientific understanding while inspiring new generations of researchers and enthusiasts. Social media and digital platforms have created new opportunities for paleontologists to share their research directly with the public. Scientists can now communicate their discoveries immediately through Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, bypassing traditional media filters and building direct relationships with interested audiences. The development of new analytical techniques promises to reveal aspects of dinosaur biology that were previously unknowable. Advances in biomolecular analysis may allow scientists to recover more information from fossil proteins and other organic compounds. Improved understanding of taphonomy, the processes that affect organisms after death, helps scientists better interpret the fossil record. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are beginning to play important roles in dinosaur research. AI algorithms can analyze vast databases of fossil measurements to identify new species, predict the existence of missing fossils, and even generate hypotheses about evolutionary relationships. These computational approaches are accelerating the pace of discovery and analysis. The integration of satellite imagery and remote sensing technologies is revolutionizing fossil prospecting. Paleontologists can now identify promising fossil-bearing formations from space, plan expeditions more effectively, and monitor fossil sites for illegal collecting activities. This technology is particularly valuable in remote or politically unstable regions where ground-based exploration is difficult. As we look toward the future, several major questions about dinosaur evolution remain to be answered. How did gigantism evolve multiple times in different dinosaur lineages? And what were the physiological and ecological constraints that limited dinosaur size? What were the precise mechanisms that allowed some dinosaurs to survive the KPG extinction, while others perished? How did complex social behaviors evolve among dinosaurs, and how do they compare to those of modern animals? New fossil discoveries continue to surprise scientists and challenge existing theories about dinosaur evolution. The recent discovery of dinosaurs in polar regions has revealed that these animals were capable of surviving in seasonal environments, with months of darkness. The finding of dinosaurs with elaborate display structures suggests that sexual selection played a more important role in dinosaur evolution than previously thought. The study of dinosaur biomechanics is revealing new insights into the physical limits of terrestrial animal evolution. Understanding how the largest dinosaurs managed to support their enormous bodies and move effectively across the landscape provides important constraints for theories about the maximum possible size of land animals. The relationship between dinosaurs and their environments continues to be an active area of research. Studies of dinosaur trackways are revealing information about herd behavior, migration patterns, and ecosystem dynamics. Analysis of coprolites, fossilized feces, provides direct evidence about dinosaur diets and digestive processes. The evolution of dinosaur reproduction and development remains one of the most fascinating aspects of their biology. New discoveries of dinosaur eggs, nests, and embryos are revealing how these animals grew from tiny hatchlings to enormous adults. The rapid growth rates of many dinosaurs required sophisticated physiological systems that are only beginning to be understood. Climate modeling studies are providing new insights into the environmental conditions that existed during the age of dinosaurs. These models help scientists understand how global climate patterns affected dinosaur distribution and evolution, and how dinosaurs themselves may have influenced global ecosystems through their feeding and other activities. The study of dinosaur extinction continues to evolve as new evidence emerges about the KPG event and its aftermath. Recent research has revealed that the extinction was more complex than previously thought, with different regions and ecosystems experiencing different patterns of survival and recovery. Understanding these patterns provides important insights into the factors that determine extinction risk. The legacy of dinosaurs in modern ecosystems extends beyond the obvious presence of birds. The ecological roles that dinosaurs filled for over 160 million years shaped the evolution of other animal and plant groups in ways that continue to influence modern ecosystems. The absence of large herbivorous dinosaurs may have contributed to the evolution of grasses and other plant groups that dominate modern terrestrial ecosystems. The philosophical implications of dinosaur evolution continue to resonate in discussions about the nature of life, extinction, and humanity's place in the natural world. The 165 million year success of dinosaurs puts human history into perspective, reminding us that our species represents just a brief moment in the vast sweep of evolutionary time. The story of dinosaur evolution illustrates fundamental principles about how life responds to environmental change and how evolution produces the incredible diversity we see in the natural world. The repeated patterns of adaptive radiation following mass extinctions demonstrate that life has an extraordinary capacity for recovery and innovation. As we face unprecedented challenges related to climate change, habitat destruction, and species extinction, The story of dinosaur evolution provides both sobering warnings and reasons for hope. The extinction of non-avian dinosaurs reminds us that even the most successful species can be vulnerable to rapid environmental change. But the survival and diversification of birds demonstrates that life can persist and thrive even after the most catastrophic events. The dinosaurs ruled the Earth for longer than any other group of large land animals in the planet's history. They survived multiple mass extinctions, adapted to dramatic climate changes, and evolved into forms of extraordinary diversity and complexity. Their success was built on innovations in locomotion, respiration, behavior, and reproduction that allowed them to dominate terrestrial ecosystems for over 160 million years. Today, as we continue to discover new species, develop new technologies for studying ancient life, and gain new insights into the history of our planet, the dinosaurs continue to inspire and amaze us. They remind us that evolution is capable of producing forms of beauty, complexity, and wonder that exceed our wildest imagination. The age of giant dinosaurs may have ended 66 million years ago, but their evolutionary legacy continues to soar through our skies, walk through our forests, and swim in our oceans. Every bird that takes flight carries within its DNA the accumulated wisdom of 230 million years of dinosaur evolution. Every nest built, every song sung, every migration undertaken by birds represents the continuation of behavioral patterns that may have originated in the Mesozoic era. The dinosaurs teach us that success in evolution is measured not in years or decades, but in millions of years. They show us that adaptation and innovation are ongoing processes that require constant adjustment to changing conditions. They demonstrate that even the most successful lineages must be prepared for unexpected challenges, and that survival often depends on maintaining flexibility in the face of uncertainty. As we stand at the threshold of an uncertain future, facing challenges that may be as severe as any that dinosaurs encountered, we can draw inspiration from their remarkable story. For 165 million years, dinosaurs proved that life can thrive, diversify, and innovate in the face of seemingly impossible challenges. Their legacy reminds us that evolution is not just about survival. It's about the endless exploration of new possibilities and the continuous creation of beauty, complexity, and wonder. The dinosaurs may be gone, but their spirit lives on in every bird that graces our skies and in every new discovery that expands our understanding of life's magnificent complexity. Chapter 6. The Cretaceous Expioloseum. The Cretaceous period, beginning 145 million years ago, would prove to be the golden age of dinosaur evolution. This was an era of unprecedented diversity, innovation, and ecological complexity that would see dinosaurs reach the absolute pinnacle of their evolutionary success. From the smallest feathered hunters to the largest land predators that ever lived, the Cretaceous witnessed an explosion of dinosaur forms that continues to amaze and inspire. US today, the world of the Cretaceous was dramatically different from the Jurassic that preceded it. The continued breakup of Pangaea had created a global archipelago of continents separated by warm, shallow seas. Sea levels were the highest in Earth's history, with vast areas of the continents flooded by tropical oceans. The climate was so warm that forests grew within a few hundred miles of both poles, and there was no ice anywhere on Earth. This greenhouse world provided ideal conditions for dinosaur diversification. Different continents, now isolated by oceanic barriers, developed their own unique dinosaur faunas. Evolutionary experiments that began in isolation on one landmass could proceed without interference from competitors on other continents, leading to an unprecedented radiation of dinosaur forms. Perhaps the most significant development of the Cretaceous was the evolution and rapid diversification of flowering plants, the angiosperms. These revolutionary plants first appeared in the fossil record during the early Cretaceous and quickly spread across the globe, fundamentally transforming terrestrial ecosystems and creating new opportunities for dinosaur evolution. The impact of flowering plants on dinosaur evolution cannot be overstated. Unlike the gymnosperms that had dominated earlier periods, angiosperms produced fruits, seeds, and leaves that were often more nutritious and easier to digest. They also grew more quickly and could recover from herbivory more rapidly. This created opportunities for more intensive feeding strategies and supported higher dinosaur population densities. The coevolution between flowering plants and their pollinators also drove the diversification of insects, which in turn provided new food sources for small dinosaurs. The complex ecological relationships that developed between plants, insects, and dinosaurs created some of the most intricate food webs in Earth's history. Herbivorous dinosaurs responded to the angiosperm revolution with their own evolutionary innovations. The late Cretaceous saw the rise of some of the most sophisticated plant-eating animals in Earth's history, equipped with complex dental batteries, efficient digestive systems, and elaborate social structures. The hadrosaurs, or duck-billed dinosaurs, exemplified this new generation of herbivores. These remarkable animals evolved dental batteries containing hundreds of individual teeth that formed efficient grinding surfaces for processing tough plant material. As teeth wore down from use, they were continuously replaced by new teeth growing from below, ensuring that hadrosaurs always had sharp cutting and grinding surfaces. Different hadrosaur species developed dramatically different crest shapes and sizes that functioned as resonating chambers for complex vocalizations. These crests allowed hadrosaurs to produce a wide variety of sounds for communication within their herds, from low-frequency calls that could travel for miles through dense forests to higher-pitched sounds used for close-range social interaction. Parasaurolophus, one of the most famous hadrosaurs, possessed a long, curved crest that functioned as a natural trumpet. By forcing air through the complex internal passages of its crest, Parasaurolophus could produce deep, resonant calls that varied depending on the size and shape of the individual's crest. These calls allowed herds to coordinate their movements, parents to communicate with their young, and individuals to establish their identity within complex social hierarchies. Recent computer modeling of hadrosaur crests has revealed that different species produce distinctly different sound signatures, suggesting that vocalizations played important roles in species recognition and mate selection. Some species may have been capable of producing complex musical sequences that served as acoustic displays during courtship or territorial encounters. The ceratopsians, or horned dinosaurs, represented another spectacular example of Cretaceous herbivore evolution. These animals evolved some of the most elaborate skull ornaments in the history of vertebrate life, with massive frills, horns, and spikes that served multiple functions in display, defense, and species recognition. Triceratops, the most famous ceratopsian, was built like a living tank. Its massive skull, which could measure over 2 meters in length, was adorned with 2 long brow horns and a shorter nasal horn. The brow horns could exceed 1 meter in length and were sharp enough to inflict serious damage on any predator foolish enough to attack from the front. The neck frill of Triceratops, while probably too thin to provide significant protection against large predators, served important functions in display and thermoregulation. The frill contained extensive blood vessel networks that allowed Triceratops to control its body temperature by regulating blood flow to the frill surface. During courtship or aggressive encounters, increased blood flow would have made the frill flush with color, creating impressive visual displays. Recent studies suggest that Triceratops may have lived in large herds that migrated seasonally across the western interior of North America. Bone beds containing hundreds of Triceratops individuals of all ages provide evidence for mass mortality events that may have occurred when herds were caught in floods or other natural disasters. The diversity of ceratopsian frill and horn arrangements was extraordinary, with each species displaying unique combinations of ornaments. Styracosaurus bore long spikes projecting from its frill, creating a crown-like appearance. Pentaceratops had 5 horns arranged across its face and frill. Cosmoceratops possessed 15 horn-like projections, giving it one of the most elaborate skull ornaments of any known animal. This incredible diversity in skull ornamentation suggests that visual display was crucially important in ceratopsian social behavior. The elaborate horns and frills likely served as species recognition signals, helping individuals identify appropriate mates and avoid hybridization with closely related species. They may also have been used in competitive displays between males, competing for mates or territory. While herbivorous dinosaurs were reaching new heights of diversity and sophistication, carnivorous dinosaurs were engaged in their own evolutionary arms race. The Cretaceous produced some of the largest and most formidable predators in the history of terrestrial life, as well as some of the most specialized and unusual hunting strategies ever evolved. Tyrannosaurus rex, the undisputed king of the Cretaceous. Predators represented the culmination of theropod evolution. At 12 to 13 meters in length and weighing up to 9 tons, T-Rex was one of the largest land predators ever to evolve. Its massive skull, measuring up to 1.5 meters in length, housed the most powerful jaws of any terrestrial animal. The bite force of T-Rex has been estimated at over 57,000 newtons, roughly equivalent to the weight of a medium-sized truck pressing down on every square inch of its victim. This incredible biting power was sufficient to crush the bones of any prey animal, allowing T-Rex to extract every possible calorie from its kills. But T-Rex was more than just a massive predator. It was a sophisticated hunter with highly developed senses and complex behaviors. Its brain was relatively large for a dinosaur, with enlarged regions devoted to processing sensory information. The olfactory bulbs, responsible for processing smell, were particularly well developed, suggesting that T-Rex had an exceptional sense of smell that may have rivaled that of modern vultures. The eyes of T-Rex faced forward, providing binocular vision that would have been crucial for accurately judging distances during attacks. Recent studies suggest that T-Rex had excellent color vision and may have been able to see details that would be invisible to many modern animals. This combination of acute senses made T-Rex a formidable hunter capable of detecting prey from great distances. Recent discoveries have revealed that T-Rex was also a caring parent. Fossil evidence suggests that adult tyrannosaurs brought food back to their nests and protected their young for extended periods. Juvenile T-Rex had very different proportions than adults, with longer legs and smaller heads, suggesting they occupied different ecological niches and may have hunted different prey than their parents. The growth rate of T-Rex was extraordinary. Studies of bone growth rings indicate that young tyrannosaurs could gain over 750 kilograms per year during their peak growth period. This rapid growth allowed them to reach adult size in approximately 20 years, but it also required enormous amounts of food and may have made them vulnerable to nutritional stress. The Cretaceous also witnessed the evolution of some of the most unusual and specialized predators in dinosaur history. Carnotaurus, discovered in Argentina, was built for speed rather than size. Its powerful leg muscles and lightweight construction allowed it to pursue prey at speeds that may have exceeded 50 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest large predators ever to evolve. The horns of Carnotaurus, which projected forward above its eyes, gave it an almost demonic appearance that has made it a favorite of paleontologists and the public alike. These horns may have been used in intraspecific combat, with males butting heads like modern bighorn sheep to establish dominance and mating rights. Perhaps even more remarkable was Spinosaurus, the largest theropod dinosaur ever discovered. This massive predator, which may have exceeded T-Rex in both length and weight, was semi-aquatic, spending much of its time in rivers and coastal waters hunting large fish. Its elongated skull and conical teeth were perfectly adapted for catching slippery aquatic prey, while its recently discovered paddle-like tail provided propulsion in the water. The discovery that Spinosaurus was semi-aquatic revolutionized our understanding of theropod ecology. For decades, paleontologists had assumed that all large theropods were terrestrial hunters, but Spinosaurus proved that these animals had experimented with aquatic lifestyles as well. This discovery opened up new questions about dinosaur diversity and the range of ecological niches they had occupied. The nostrils of Spinosaurus were positioned high on its skull, allowing it to breathe while most of its head was submerged. Its bones were unusually dense, providing ballast that helped it dive and maneuver underwater. These adaptations showed that Spinosaurus had committed fully to an aquatic lifestyle, becoming essentially a giant crocodile with legs. One of the most significant developments of the Cretaceous was the continued evolution of feathers and flight among small theropods. While the first birds had appeared in the late Jurassic, the Cretaceous saw an explosion of bird diversity and the evolution of many sophisticated flight adaptations. The dromaeosaurids, or raptor dinosaurs, represented some of the most sophisticated predators of the Cretaceous. These animals combined intelligence, agility, and deadly weaponry in packages that range from crow-sized to bear-sized. Velociraptor, though much smaller than its Hollywood portrayal, was a highly intelligent pack hunter with a large brain, stereoscopic vision, and the famous sickle-shaped claw on each foot. The intelligence of dromaeosaurids was remarkable. Their brains were large relative to their body size, with well-developed regions responsible for processing visual and spatial information. This cognitive sophistication allowed them to coordinate complex hunting strategies and navigate through three-dimensional forest environments with remarkable precision. Evidence suggests that dromaeosaurids hunted in coordinated groups, using pack tactics to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Fossil discoveries have revealed evidence of cooperative hunting behavior, with multiple individuals found in association with large herbivore remains. Some species may have used complex communication systems and sophisticated hunting strategies that rivaled those of modern social carnivores. The famous sickle-shaped claws of dromaeosaurids were precision instruments rather than simple slashing weapons. Recent biomechanical studies suggest that these claws were used to grip and pin down struggling prey, while the pack delivered killing bites. The curved shape and sharp point of the claws provided maximum gripping power with minimal risk of the claw breaking during combat. Microraptor, a small dromaeosaurid from early Cretaceous China, possessed 4 wings, feathered surfaces on both its arms and legs that allowed it to glide between trees in dense forests. This remarkable animal provided crucial insights into the evolution of flight, suggesting that the transition from ground-dwelling to aerial lifestyle may have been more complex than previously thought. The feathers of Microraptor were not just functional, but also beautiful. Analysis of preserved pigment cells has revealed that Microraptor had iridescent black feathers similar to those of modern ravens. This discovery marked the first time scientists had been able to determine the color of a non-avian dinosaur, opening up new possibilities for understanding dinosaur appearance and behavior. The Cretaceous also saw the continued evolution of sauropods, though these giants followed different evolutionary trajectories on different continents. In South America, titanosaurs evolved into the largest land animals that ever lived. Argentinosaurus, discovered in Argentina, may have reached lengths of 35 meters and weights of up to 100 tons, larger than any other land animal in Earth's history. These Cretaceous giants pushed the physical limits of what's possible for terrestrial animals. Their hearts had to pump blood vertically through necks that stretched 20 meters or more. Their digestive systems processed tons of plant material every day. Their legs had to support weights that exceeded those of modern blue whales while still allowing for movement across the landscape. The Titanosaurs also developed unique reproductive strategies. Unlike earlier sauropods that may have laid their eggs in simple nests, Titanosaurs created elaborate nesting sites with multiple layers of eggs and sophisticated temperature control systems. Some species may have brooded their eggs like modern birds, using their body heat to maintain optimal incubation temperatures. By the end of the Cretaceous period, dinosaurs had achieved a level of diversity and ecological dominance that was unprecedented in the history of terrestrial life. They had evolved into forms ranging from tiny feathered insectivores to massive long-necked herbivores, from swift pursuit predators to heavily armored tanks. They had colonized every continent and adapted to every terrestrial habitat. But this golden age was about to come to a dramatic and sudden end. 66 million years ago, a catastrophe from space would bring the reign of the non-avian dinosaurs to a close and change the course of life on Earth forever. Chapter 7. The origin of birds. While giant predators stalked the Cretaceous landscape and massive herbivores stripped vegetation from towering trees, a quieter but equally revolutionary development was taking place in the forests and woodlands of the Mesozoic world. Small theropod dinosaurs were experimenting with feathers, flight, and behaviors that would ultimately give rise to one of the most successful animal groups on Earth: birds. The story of feather evolution begins not with flight, but with a much more mundane function: insulation. In the seasonal forests of Jurassic China, small coelurosaur dinosaurs had begun to evolve simple, hair-like structures that helped them regulate their body temperature. These proto-feathers, discovered in remarkable fossil deposits that preserve soft tissues with extraordinary fidelity, were initially nothing more than hollow tubes that provided a layer of insulation around the animal's body. The preservation of these early feathers required extraordinary circumstances. In the Liaoning province of China, volcanic ash falls repeatedly buried forest ecosystems, creating fossil deposits of unparalleled quality. These Lagersten, as paleontologists call them, have preserved not just bones, but also skin, muscles, internal organs, and most remarkably, feathers and other soft tissues that normally decay long before fossilization can occur. But evolution, as always, found new uses for old structures. Over millions of years, these simple filaments became more complex, developing branches and eventually the sophisticated asymmetrical flight feathers that characterize modern birds. The evolution of feathers represents one of the most remarkable examples of how evolutionary innovations can be co-opted for entirely new functions. Sinosauropteryx, a small compsognathid theropod from early Cretaceous China, provides our first clear evidence of feathered dinosaurs. This chicken-sized predator was covered in simple, filamentous protofeathers that likely served primarily for insulation and possibly display. The feathers were short and simple, lacking the complex branching structure of modern bird feathers, but they represented a crucial first step in feather evolution. Analysis of preserved pigment cells in Sinosauropteryx feathers has revealed remarkable details about dinosaur coloration. This small predator had a reddish-brown base color with darker stripes along its back and tail. The first time scientists have been able to determine the color pattern of a non-avian dinosaur. This discovery opened up entirely new avenues for understanding dinosaur behavior, ecology, and evolution. The pigment cells, called melanosomes, were preserved within the fossil feathers as microscopic structures that could be analyzed using powerful electron microscopes. Different shapes and arrangements of melanosomes produce different colors in modern animals, allowing scientists to reconstruct the appearance of long-extinct creatures with remarkable accuracy. As feather complexity increased, so did their functions. Caudipteryx, another Chinese dinosaur from the early Cretaceous, possessed more advanced feathers with clearly defined barbs and barbules. While these feathers were not suitable for powered flight, they may have been used for display, species recognition, or enhanced maneuverability during running. The tail feathers of Caudipteryx were particularly elaborate, forming fan-shaped displays that were clearly visible when the animal raised its tail. These display structures suggest that sexual selection played an important role in early feather evolution, with individuals possessing more elaborate feathers having advantages in attracting mates or intimidating rivals. The evolution of complex feathers preceded the evolution of flight by millions of years, demonstrating that these structures initially served other purposes: display, thermoregulation, and enhanced agility during ground-based locomotion all contributed to the early success of feathered dinosaurs. The transition from feathered ground dwellers to flying animals was gradual and complex, involving multiple evolutionary experiments and different approaches to aerial locomotion. Microraptor, a four-winged dromaeosaurid from the early Cretaceous, represents a crucial stage in this transition. This remarkable animal possessed long, asymmetrical flight, feathers on both its arms and legs, creating four wing surfaces that allowed it to glide between trees. Microraptor's wings were not optimized for powered flight like those of modern birds, but rather for controlled gliding and parachuting through forest canopies. The discovery of Microraptor suggested that early flight may have been quite different from modern bird flight. These animals may have used a combination of gliding, flapping, and even parachuting to move through three-dimensional forest environments. The reduction from 4 wings to 2 that characterizes modern birds may have been an optimization for more efficient powered flight. Wind tunnel experiments using Microraptor models have revealed that this animal was capable of sophisticated aerial maneuvers. By adjusting the position of its wing and tail feathers, Microraptor could control its gliding speed, direction, and landing approach. This level of flight control suggests that even early flying dinosaurs possessed complex neurological systems for processing spatial information and coordinating movement. Anchiornis, another small feathered dinosaur from China, provides additional insights into the early evolution of flight. This crow-sized animal possessed long flight feathers on its arms and shorter feathers on its legs, representing an intermediate stage between the 4-winged condition of Microraptor and the 2-winged condition of modern birds. Analysis of Anchiornis feathers has revealed another remarkable discovery. This animal was primarily black with white wing patches and a reddish crest. This color pattern may have served important functions in species recognition and mate selection, suggesting that visual displays were important aspects of early dinosaur social behavior. Archaeopteryx, discovered in the limestone quarries of Bavaria in 1861, remains one of the most important fossils ever found. This late Jurassic animal perfectly exemplifies the transition between dinosaurs and birds, possessing a mosaic of reptilian and avian characteristics that clearly demonstrates their evolutionary relationship. Archaeopteryx retained many dinosaurian features that linked it clearly to its theropod ancestors. It had teeth in its jaws rather than a beak, claws on its hands, a long bony tail, and a relatively primitive brain. Its skeleton lacked many of the specialized adaptations for flight that characterize modern birds, but Archaeopteryx also possessed true flight feathers with the asymmetrical structure necessary for generating lift during powered flight. Its flight feathers were virtually identical to those of modern birds in their microscopic structure and aerodynamic properties. It also possessed a wishbone, furcula, and other skeletal adaptations that indicated capability for at least limited powered flight. The Berlin specimen of Archaeopteryx, one of the most complete fossils ever discovered, reveals exquisite details of early bird anatomy. Its flight feathers show clear evidence of the barbule structures that allow modern bird feathers to function as efficient airfoils. Even its body feathers display the branching patterns that provide efficient insulation in modern birds. Recent discoveries have revealed that the transition to powered flight occurred multiple times among different lineages of feathered dinosaurs. Rahamavis from Madagascar, Jahalanus from China, and other early birds experimented with different solutions to the challenges of aerial locomotion. This suggests that flight was a highly advantageous adaptation that was strongly favored by natural selection. The diversity of early flight experiments is remarkable. Some lineages developed long, broad wings optimized for soaring flight. Others evolved shorter, more maneuverable wings suited for flying through dense forests. Still others retained the ability to run on the ground while also being capable of short-distance flights. The evolution of flight brought with it a cascade of other evolutionary changes that affected every aspect of early bird biology. Flying animals needed more efficient respiratory systems to meet the high oxygen demands of powered flight. They required enhanced nervous systems to process the complex sensory information needed for three-dimensional navigation. They needed modified digestive systems to minimize weight while maximizing energy extraction from food. These physiological changes had profound effects on early bird behavior and ecology. Flying animals could exploit food sources that were inaccessible to ground-dwelling dinosaurs. They could escape predators more effectively and colonize new habitats more rapidly. They could undertake long-distance migrations that allowed them to track seasonal resources across vast geographic areas. The development of enhanced parental care behaviors was another crucial innovation among early birds. Unlike most reptiles, which typically provide minimal care for their offspring, early birds began to invest heavily in nest construction, egg incubation, and feeding of young. This shift toward more intensive parental care allowed for the evolution of larger brains and more complex behaviors. Evidence suggests that some non-avian dinosaurs also engaged in sophisticated parental care behaviors. Oviraptor, whose name ironically means egg thief, was actually found brooding its own eggs in a bird-like posture. The adult was positioned over its nest with its arms spread wide, covering the eggs with its feathered body in exactly the same manner as modern birds. Chapter 8. The Great Dying 66 million years ago. On what seemed like an ordinary day in the late Cretaceous, the Earth was a paradise of dinosaur diversity. Vast herds of Triceratops migrated across the plains of western North America, their massive frills catching the morning sunlight. In the forests, hadrosaurs called to each other with complex trumpet calls that echoed through the humid air. Overhead, pterosaurs with wingspans wider than small aircraft soared on thermal currents, while in clearings, enormous tyrannosaurs stalked their prey with calculated precision. This was the world at its most alive, its most diverse, its most magnificent. After 165 million years of evolution, dinosaurs had reached the absolute pinnacle of their success. They dominated every terrestrial ecosystem on Earth, from the Arctic forests of Alaska to the desert oases of Africa. No other group of large land animals in Earth's history had achieved such global dominance or evolved into such spectacular forms. But somewhere in the depths of space, a harbinger of doom was hurtling toward Earth at a speed of 20 kilometers per second. This asteroid, roughly 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter, about the size of Manhattan, had been wandering through the solar system for billions of years. Now, by the cruelest stroke of cosmic chance, its orbit was converging with Earth's. The asteroid had originated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, where gravitational perturbations had knocked it out of its stable orbit and sent it on a collision course with the inner solar system. For millions of years, it had been falling toward the Sun, its trajectory gradually modified by the gravitational influences of the planets it passed as it approached Earth. The asteroid was traveling at a velocity that defied human comprehension. Moving 20 times faster than a rifle bullet, it carried kinetic energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons. The dinosaurs, for all their success and adaptation, had no defense against this cosmic accident. The impact, when it came, was beyond anything in human experience to comprehend. The asteroid struck the shallow sea off what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico with the force of 100 million megatons of TNT. In an instant, rock was vaporized, seawater was superheated to steam, and a fireball brighter than the sun expanded outward at thousands of kilometers per hour. The immediate effects were catastrophic beyond imagination. The impact created a crater over 180 kilometers wide and 20 kilometers deep, a wound in the Earth's surface that would remain visible for millions of years. The explosion was so powerful that it was equivalent to detonating every nuclear weapon on Earth simultaneously, then repeating that explosion 1,000,000 times. Massive earthquakes, far more powerful than any recorded in human history, shook the entire planet. These seismic waves traveled through the Earth's crust at the speed of sound, triggering landslides, volcanic eruptions, and structural failures thousands of kilometers from the impact site. The ground shook so violently that it would have been impossible for any large animal to remain standing. Tsunamis hundreds of meters high raced across the oceans at jet plane speeds, devastating coastlines on every continent. These walls of water, carrying billions of tons of debris, penetrated hundreds of kilometers inland, scouring the landscape clean of all life. The tsunamis were so massive that they created their own weather systems, with winds exceeding hurricane force and precipitation that fell as molten glass. But these immediate effects, devastating as they were only the beginning. The impact hurled millions of tons of vaporized rock, water, and organic matter into the atmosphere and beyond. Some of this material was blasted completely out of Earth's gravitational field and dispersed into space, while the rest began its deadly journey back to the surface. As the vaporized material condensed in the upper atmosphere, it formed countless tiny glass spherules that began raining back down on the planet. These spherules, heated to incandescence by their passage through the atmosphere, fell like burning snow across the entire globe. The heat released by this global shower of molten glass was sufficient to ignite forests on every continent. Within hours, the sky was filled with smoke from countless wildfires that raged across the planet. The impact had literally set the world on fire, creating a global conflagration that consumed vast areas of vegetation and filled the atmosphere with toxic smoke and ash. The combination of impact debris and smoke from burning forests began to block out the sun's radiation. The impact winter that followed was unlike anything in Earth's history. For months, possibly years, the sun disappeared behind a thick curtain of dust, ash, and smoke. Global temperatures plummeted as solar radiation was blocked, with some regions experiencing temperature drops of 20 degrees Celsius or more. The planet was plunged into a darkness deeper than the darkest night. Without sunlight, photosynthesis ground to a halt across the globe. Plants, the foundation of all terrestrial food webs, began to die en masse. The complex ecological relationships that had sustained dinosaur ecosystems for millions of years began to unravel as the energy that powered all life was cut off at its source. For the dinosaurs, this was the beginning of the end. The largest animals, which required enormous quantities of food to sustain their massive bodies, were the first to suffer. Sauropods, which needed to consume hundreds of kilograms of plant material every day, found themselves in a world where plants were dying or already dead. Without the constant influx of calories necessary to maintain their body temperature and basic physiological functions, these giants began to starve. The herbivorous dinosaurs that had dominated Cretaceous ecosystems faced an impossible situation. The plants they depended on were not just scarce, they were disappearing entirely. Even the most efficient digestive systems could not extract nutrients from dead and dying vegetation. Hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, and ankylosaurs that had thrived for millions of years found themselves competing for increasingly limited food resources, while the carnivorous dinosaurs faced an equally grim fate. As herbivorous dinosaurs died, the predators that depended on them found their food sources disappearing. Tyrannosaurus rex, the apex predator that had ruled Cretaceous ecosystems, was reduced to scavenging the carcasses of herbivores that had succumbed to starvation. But even scavenging could not sustain them for long, as the supply of carcasses was finite and the nutritional quality of rotting meat deteriorated rapidly. The smaller theropods, which might have been expected to survive better than their giant relatives, faced their own unique challenges. Many were specialized predators that depended on specific prey species. As ecosystems collapsed and prey animals went extinct, these specialists found themselves without viable food sources. The impact winter was perhaps even more devastating than the immediate starvation. Temperatures dropped so dramatically that many regions experienced freezing conditions even in areas that had previously enjoyed tropical climates. For animals that had evolved in the warm greenhouse world of the Cretaceous, these temperature drops were catastrophic. Dinosaurs, despite their success and evolutionary sophistication, were fundamentally dependent on external heat sources for thermoregulation. Even if some lineages had evolved partial warm-bloodedness, they lacked the insulation and metabolic capabilities necessary to maintain body temperature during prolonged cold periods. The combination of starvation and hypothermia proved lethal. For most dinosaur populations, the darkness was equally devastating. Many dinosaurs were visual animals that depended on sight for hunting, navigation, and social interaction. The prolonged darkness disrupted their behavioral patterns and made it difficult for survivors to find food, mates, or safe shelter. Social species that depended on visual communication found their societies breaking down as normal behaviors became impossible. Marine ecosystems suffered equally devastating losses. The impact generated massive acid rain that poisoned oceans already disrupted by tsunamis and debris. The microscopic phytoplankton that formed the base of marine food webs died en masse, causing the collapse of entire oceanic ecosystems. Marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, which had dominated Cretaceous seas, went extinct along with their terrestrial relatives. The extinction was not instantaneous, however. Some dinosaur populations may have survived for months or even years after the impact, clinging to life in scattered refugia where some vegetation persisted or where geothermal activity provided warmth. But the damage to global ecosystems was too severe and too widespread for recovery within the time frame necessary for large dinosaur survival. One by one, the remaining populations succumbed to the combined effects of starvation, cold, disease, and ecosystem collapse. The great migration routes that had connected dinosaur populations across continents were severed. The breeding colonies that had sustained population growth were abandoned. The social structures that had allowed dinosaurs to thrive for millions of years disintegrated. The fossil record tells the story of this extinction with stark clarity. In rock formations around the world, The boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods, the KPG boundary, is marked by a thin layer of clay enriched with iridium, an element rare on Earth but common in asteroids. Below this layer, fossils of dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and many other Mesozoic animals are abundant. Above it, they disappear completely and forever. The selectivity of the extinction provides important insights into what determines survival versus extinction. Size was perhaps the most important factor. Large animals were far more likely to go extinct than small animals. This size bias reflects the harsh reality that large animals require more food and are less able to survive. Extended periods of resource scarcity. Habitat preferences also influence survival rates. Animals that lived in freshwater environments had higher survival rates than those in marine or terrestrial ecosystems. Rivers and lakes may have provided more stable conditions during the chaos following the impact, with some aquatic plants surviving in protected environments. Dietary flexibility was another crucial factor. Animals with broad diets had better survival prospects than specialists that depended on specific food sources. Omnivores and detritivores could exploit whatever organic matter remained available, while herbivores and carnivores, dependent on living prey, faced insurmountable challenges. Behavioral adaptations also played important roles in determining survival. Animals capable of dormancy, hibernation, or extended periods of reduced activity were more likely to survive the months of darkness and cold. Species that could shelter underground or in protected environments had advantages over those that required open habitats. Birds, despite being dinosaurs themselves, possessed several characteristics that enhanced their survival prospects. Their small size meant they required less food than their giant relatives. Their ability to fly allowed them to search widely for scattered food sources that remained available. Their feathers provided insulation that helped them maintain body temperature during cold periods. Some bird species may have been able to enter states of torpor that reduced their metabolic demands during the worst periods of resource scarcity. Their diverse diets, ranging from seeds and insects to small vertebrates, gave them flexibility that more specialized dinosaurs lacked. Most importantly, their aerial capabilities allowed them to exploit resources that were inaccessible to ground-dwelling animals. The KPG extinction was not just the end of the dinosaurs, it was the end of an entire world. The warm, humid greenhouse climate of the Cretaceous gave way to cooler, more variable conditions. The complex ecosystems dominated by giant reptiles were replaced by simpler communities that would eventually be dominated by mammals. Yet in the most profound sense, dinosaurs did not go extinct at all. Birds, their direct descendants, not only survived the KPG extinction, but went on to become one of the most successful vertebrate groups on Earth. Today, with over 10,000 species, birds are more diverse than mammals and have colonized virtually every habitat on the planet. The survival and subsequent success of birds represents one of the most remarkable comebacks in the history of life. From the ashes of the KPG extinction, these feathered dinosaurs rebuilt and rediversified, eventually producing forms as diverse as hummingbirds and ostriches, penguins and eagles, parrots and crows. Every time we see a bird in flight, we are witnessing the continuation of the dinosaur lineage that began in the Triassic forests over 230 million years ago. The great experiment in reptilian gigantism may have ended with the asteroid impact, but the dinosaur story continues in every chirp, every song, and every wingbeat that graces our modern world. Chapter 9. After the IMPACE. In the immediate aftermath of the asteroid impact, Earth was a world transformed beyond recognition. The lush, dinosaur-dominated ecosystems of the Cretaceous had been replaced by a stark, devastated landscape where silence reigned where once the calls of giant reptiles had echoed across continents. The impact winter was beginning to lift. Sunlight was slowly returning to penetrate the clearing atmosphere, and life was cautiously beginning its long journey back from the brink of total annihilation. The Paleocene epoch, beginning 66 million years ago, marked the start of a new chapter in Earth's history, the age of mammals. But this transition was neither immediate nor simple. The recovery from the KPG extinction was a complex process that unfolded over millions of years, involving the gradual rebuilding of ecosystems, the evolution of new forms of life, and the establishment of ecological relationships that would define the modern world. In the immediate aftermath of the extinction, the survivors faced a world that was fundamentally different from anything their ancestors had experienced. The warm, stable greenhouse climate of the Cretaceous had been replaced by more variable conditions, with temperature fluctuations that reflected the disrupted atmospheric and oceanic circulation patterns caused by the impact. The landscape itself bore the scars of the catastrophe. Vast areas that had once supported lush forests were now barren wastelands covered with a thin layer of impact debris. Rivers had been choked with sediment from the tsunamis. Coastlines had been completely reshaped by the massive waves that had swept across continents. The very topography of the Earth had been altered by the violence of the impact. The plant communities that began to recover in the early Paleocene were dominated by ferns, fungi, and other organisms capable of rapid colonization of disturbed environments. This fern spike, visible in the fossil record, represents the first stage of ecosystem recovery, the establishment of primary productivity in a world where most photosynthetic organisms had been eliminated. Ferns were particularly well suited to post-extinction recovery because of their reproductive strategy. Unlike flowering plants that depended on complex pollination relationships, ferns reproduced through spores that could disperse over long distances and establish new populations rapidly. Their tolerance for disturbed soils and their ability to photosynthesize efficiently under low-light conditions gave them crucial advantages in the post-impact environment. Fungi played an equally important role in early recovery. These decomposer organisms thrived on the enormous quantities of dead organic matter that littered the post-extinction landscape. The mass death of plants and animals had created a bonanza for decomposers, and fungi rapidly expanded to exploit this resource. Their activities helped break down dead material and recycle nutrients back into the environment. Small mammals, which had lived in the shadows of dinosaurs for over 160 million years, suddenly found themselves inheriting a world full of vacant ecological niches. During the Mesozoic, mammals had been mostly small, nocturnal creatures that fed on insects, small vertebrates, and plant material. The largest Cretaceous mammals were no bigger than badgers, and most were much smaller. The mammalian survivors of the KPG extinction possessed several characteristics that had aided their survival. Their small size meant they required less food than large dinosaurs. Their fur provided insulation that helped them survive the cold impact winter. Many species were burrowers that could shelter underground during the worst periods. Most importantly, they were dietary generalists that could exploit whatever food sources remained available. At the extinction of non-avian dinosaurs removed the competitive pressure that had kept mammals small and relegated to marginal ecological roles. In the absence of large dinosaurian herbivores and carnivores, mammals began to experiment with larger body sizes and new ecological strategies. This process, known as adaptive radiation, would transform mammals from minor players in Mesozoic ecosystems to the dominant large land animals of the Cenozoic era. The early Paleocene mammal fauna was dominated by archaic groups that have no modern equivalents. Multituberculates, small rodent-like mammals with specialized teeth for processing plant material, became some of the most successful early Paleocene herbivores. These animals had complex dental batteries that could efficiently process tough plant material, giving them advantages in a world where high-quality plant foods were scarce. Condylarths, primitive ungulates with claws rather than hooves, began to explore the herbivorous niches previously occupied by dinosaurs. These early ungulates were quite different from their modern relatives, with generalized body plans that allowed them to exploit a variety of food sources. Some species were primarily browsers that fed on leaves and shoots, while others were more omnivorous among the carnivores. Early members of groups like the mesonychids and creodonts began to evolve larger body sizes and more sophisticated hunting strategies. These archaic carnivores experimented with different approaches to predation, some becoming pursuit predators that chased down their prey, while others evolved as ambush hunters that waited in concealment for unsuspecting victims. The mesonychids were particularly successful early Paleocene predators. These wolf-like mammals had sharp teeth and powerful jaw muscles that allowed them to process both meat and bone. Some species grew to the size of modern bears, filling the large carnivore niche that had been left vacant by the extinction of tyrannosaurs and other giant theropods. Birds, as the surviving dinosaurs, played crucial roles in early Paleocene ecosystems. Having survived the extinction event through their small size, flight capabilities, and dietary flexibility, they were well positioned to exploit both terrestrial and aerial niches that had been abandoned by their non-avian relatives. The immediate post-extinction bird fauna was dominated by relatively small, generalized species that could exploit a variety of food sources. These early Paleocene birds lacked the extreme specializations that characterize many Cretaceous species, reflecting the simplified ecosystems and limited resources of the recovery period. Some bird lineages, however, began to evolve toward larger body sizes during the Paleocene, filling some of the ecological roles previously occupied by their non-avian relatives. Gastornis, a massive flightless bird that appeared in the Paleocene and reached its peak in the Eocene, may have reached heights of 2 meters and weights of several hundred kilograms. These giant birds were once thought to be predators that hunted early mammals, but more recent evidence suggests they may have been herbivores that used their powerful beaks to crack open seeds and nuts. The evolution of large flightless birds represented one attempt to fill the large herbivore niches left vacant by the and extinction of dinosaurs. The recovery of plant communities was equally dramatic and important for understanding post-extinction ecosystem dynamics. The early Paleocene saw the continued diversification of flowering plants, which had begun their rise to dominance during the Cretaceous. These angiosperms proved remarkably resilient to the extinction event and quickly recolonized devastated landscapes. The success of flowering plants during the recovery was partly due to their sophisticated reproductive strategies. Many species had evolved relationships with animal pollinators that helped them spread rapidly across the landscape. Others produced fruits and seeds that were attractive to surviving animals, ensuring effective seed dispersal. The coevolution between flowering plants and their animal pollinators and seed dispersers became increasingly important during the Paleocene. Insects, many of which had survived the KPG extinction better than vertebrates due to their small size and diverse life cycles, played crucial roles in this process. The relationships between plants and insects that developed during this period laid the foundation for the complex ecological networks that characterize modern terrestrial ecosystems. Climate during the Paleocene was generally warm and humid, though with greater variability than the greenhouse conditions of the Cretaceous. The absence of polar ice caps and the high atmospheric carbon dioxide levels inherited from the extinction event maintained warm conditions globally. However, the climate system was less stable than it had been during the Cretaceous, with more frequent fluctuations that challenge recovering ecosystems. The geographic configuration of the continents continued to evolve during the Paleocene as the breakup of Pangaea proceeded. The Atlantic Ocean was widening as North America and Europe drifted apart, while India was racing northward toward its eventual collision with Asia. Australia was beginning its long journey toward isolation in the southern oceans. These continental movements had profound effects on ocean circulation patterns and regional climates. Marine ecosystems also underwent dramatic changes during the Paleocene recovery. The extinction had eliminated many of the large marine reptiles that had dominated Cretaceous seas, including mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and many groups of ammonites. In their place, new groups of marine animals began to diversify and fill the vacant ecological niches. Early whales, still terrestrial or semi-aquatic at this stage, began their evolutionary journey toward becoming fully aquatic mammals. These early cetaceans, such as Pakicetus from Pakistan, were wolf-like animals that hunted fish in shallow waters along coastlines. Over the following millions of years, their descendants would become completely aquatic and evolve into the largest animals ever to live on Earth: sharks and bony fish, which had survived the extinction relatively well, due to their position in aquatic food webs that were less disrupted than terrestrial ones, diversified into new forms during the Paleocene. Marine mammals like early sirenians, relatives of modern manatees and dugongs, and the ancestors of seals and sea lions, began to explore aquatic lifestyles. The Paleocene also marked the beginning of important evolutionary developments that would shape the later Cenozoic era. The first members of many modern mammalian orders appeared during this epoch, including early primates, early ungulates, and early carnivores. While these early representatives were often quite different from their modern descendants, they established the basic body plans and ecological strategies that would be refined over subsequent millions of years. Early primates, such as Plesioetipus, were small, squirrel-like animals that lived in trees and fed primarily on fruits and leaves. These early primates lacked many of the characteristics that define modern primates, such as forward-facing eyes and grasping hands, but they represented the beginning of the lineage that would eventually give rise to humans. The development of more sophisticated dental systems among herbivorous mammals was one of the most significant evolutionary innovations of the Paleocene. The tough, fibrous plant material that dominated post-extinction plant communities required new approaches to food processing. Mammals evolved increasingly complex tooth structures, including grinding surfaces, shearing blades, and other specializations for breaking down plant cellulose. Social behaviors also began to evolve among Paleocene mammals as they explored new ecological niches and developed new survival strategies. Evidence suggests that some early ungulates may have lived in herds that provided protection from predators and improved foraging efficiency. Some carnivores may have engaged in cooperative hunting that allowed them to take down larger prey. The Paleocene recovery was not uniform across all regions of the globe. Different continents, now increasingly isolated by oceanic barriers, developed distinct mammalian faunas that reflected their unique environmental conditions and evolutionary histories. This geographic isolation promoted evolutionary experimentation and led to the development of unique adaptive solutions to similar ecological challenges. In North America, the early Paleocene fauna was dominated by archaic mammal groups that would later be replaced by more modern forms. In Europe, island-like conditions created by high sea levels led to the evolution of endemic species found nowhere else. In South America, which was isolated from other continents throughout most of the Cenozoic, a unique mammalian fauna evolved. That included marsupials, xenothrans, and other distinctive groups. By the end of the Paleocene, about 10 million years after the asteroid impact, terrestrial ecosystems had largely recovered from the extinction event. Plant communities had re-established complex food webs, mammals had diversified into numerous ecological niches, and the basic structure of Cenozoic ecosystems was beginning to emerge. But the recovery was not simply a return to pre-extinction conditions. The world that emerged from the Paleocene was fundamentally different from the Cretaceous world that had preceded it. The age of giant reptiles was over, and the age of mammals had begun. The survivors had not merely inherited the Earth. They had transformed it into something entirely new. The Paleocene recovery demonstrates the remarkable resilience of life and its capacity to rebuild even after the most devastating catastrophes. But it also shows that extinction events, while destructive, can also be creative forces that open up new, evolutionary opportunities and drive the development of entirely new forms of life. The mammals and birds that emerged from the Paleocene would go on to produce some of the most remarkable creatures in Earth's history, including whales, elephants, bats, and eventually our own species. The legacy of the dinosaurs lived on not just in the birds that survived the extinction, but in the very structure of the ecosystems that their demise had made possible. Chapter 10. The continuing legacy. Why, as we reach the end of our journey through 165 million years of dinosaur evolution, we find ourselves not at a conclusion, but at the beginning of a new understanding. The story of dinosaurs did not end with the asteroid impact that devastated the Earth 66 million years ago. It merely entered a new chapter, one that continues to unfold in research laboratories, fossil sites, and even in our own backyards. As we observe the descendants of these magnificent creatures in action. The modern era of dinosaur research has been marked by discoveries so revolutionary that they have fundamentally changed our understanding of these ancient animals. Advanced imaging techniques, chemical analysis of fossil materials, and even genetic studies of their bird descendants have revealed aspects of dinosaur biology that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. Perhaps no discovery has been more transformative than the revelation that many dinosaurs were covered in feathers. The fossil deposits of Liaoning Province in China have yielded a treasure trove of feathered dinosaurs that have rewritten our understanding of dinosaur appearance, behavior, and evolution. These remarkable fossils have preserved not just the bones of dinosaurs, but their soft tissues, including feathers, skin, and even internal organs. The preservation of these soft tissues has allowed scientists to determine the colors of dinosaur feathers for the first time. By analyzing the microscopic structures called melanosomes that contain pigments, researchers have been able to reconstruct the striking color patterns of species like Anchiornis, which was black with white wing patches, and Borealopelta, which had a reddish-brown camouflage pattern. These color reconstructions have profound implications for understanding dinosaur behavior. The elaborate color patterns preserved in some fossils suggest that many dinosaurs engaged in complex visual displays for courtship, territorial defense, and species recognition. The peacock-like tail feathers of some oviraptorids, the colorful crests of parasaurolophid, and the intricate patterns of many small theropods all point to rich social lives that rivaled those of modern birds. Advanced biomechanical studies have revealed new insights into how dinosaurs moved, fed, and interacted with their environments. Computer modeling of dinosaur locomotion has shown that many species were capable of much more sophisticated movements than previously thought. Some large theropods may have been capable of rapid bursts of speed, while others were adapted for long-distance pursuit of prey. The feeding mechanisms of herbivorous dinosaurs have proven to be remarkably sophisticated. Studies of hadrosaur dental batteries have revealed that these animals possessed some of the most complex chewing mechanisms ever evolved, capable of processing tough plant material with remarkable efficiency. The long necks of sauropods have been shown to function not just as feeding tools, but as complex engineering systems that balance strength, flexibility, and weight distribution. Perhaps most remarkably, recent discoveries have revealed that some dinosaurs possessed cognitive abilities that approach those of modern birds and mammals. The brain structure of Trudon, a small theropod from the late Cretaceous, suggests intelligence comparable to that of modern birds. Evidence for complex social behaviors, including cooperative hunting, nest building, and parental care, indicates that many dinosaurs lived rich, emotional, and social lives. The study of dinosaur extinction has provided crucial insights into the processes that drive biodiversity loss and recovery. The KPG extinction serves as a natural experiment that helps scientists understand how ecosystems respond to catastrophic environmental change. These insights are particularly relevant today as we face our own biodiversity crisis driven by human activities. Climate research has been revolutionized by studies of ancient climates during the Mesozoic era. The greenhouse world, inhabited by dinosaurs, provides important data points for understanding how Earth's climate system responds to high atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. The relationship between climate change and evolutionary innovation during the Mesozoic offers insights into how life might adapt to future environmental changes. The technological applications inspired by dinosaur research continue to expand as engineers and designers find new ways to apply lessons learned from these ancient animals. The biomechanics of dinosaur locomotion inform the development of more efficient robots and vehicles. The aerodynamics of pterosaur flight inspire new aircraft designs. Even the structure of dinosaur bones, with their combination of strength and lightness, inspires new material science applications. The cultural impact of dinosaurs extends far beyond scientific research. These magnificent creatures have captured human imagination like few other groups of ancient animals, featuring prominently in literature, film, art, and popular culture. They serve as symbols of both the majesty of nature and the reality of extinction, providing powerful metaphors for discussions about environmental conservation and the history of life on Earth. Educational programs featuring dinosaurs have inspired countless young people to pursue careers in science. The combination of scientific rigor and inherent excitement that characterizes dinosaur research makes it an ideal vehicle for science communication and public engagement. Museums around the world use dinosaur exhibits to teach visitors about evolution, geology, ecology, and the methods of scientific research. Conservation efforts are increasingly informed by lessons learned from dinosaur paleobiology. Understanding how ancient ecosystems functioned and how they responded to environmental change provides important guidance for protecting the world of the Middle and Late Jurassic was a paradise for large herbivores. Global temperatures were significantly warmer than today, with no polar ice caps and sea levels that were much higher than modern times. Atmospheric carbon dioxide levels were elevated, promoting lush plant growth across most continental areas. The breakup of Pangaea had created new coastlines and inland seas that moderated climate extremes and supported diverse ecosystems. In this greenhouse world, plant communities reached unprecedented levels of productivity and diversity. Vast forests of conifers, cycads, and tree ferns covered most land areas, creating multi-layered ecosystems that could support enormous numbers of herbivorous animals. The absence of grasses meant that ground-level vegetation was dominated by ferns and low-growing conifers, while the canopy was formed by towering trees that reached heights comparable to modern redwoods. The star performers in this drama of evolutionary escalation were the sauropods, the long-necked giants that have captured human imagination since the first dinosaur fossils were discovered. These magnificent creatures didn't simply grow large. They redefined what it meant to be a terrestrial animal, developing body plans and physiological systems that seem almost impossible by modern standards. ARCHOSAURS, one of the best-known Jurassic giants, exemplified the sauropod approach to life in the Mesozoic world. Stretching 22 meters from nose to tail and weighing as much as 4 African elephants, ARCHOSAURS moved through the Jurassic landscape like a living mountain. Its massive body was supported by 4 pillow-like legs, each ending in broad, padded feet that distributed its enormous weight across the forest floor. The engineering challenges of supporting such enormous necks were solved through a combination of sophisticated anatomy and revolutionary physiology. ARCHOSAURUS's neck, though not the longest among sauropods, still stretched over 9 meters in length, allowing it to browse on vegetation 15 meters above the ground, as high as a modern 4-story building. Sauropod vertebrae were not solid bone, but rather complex lattice of struts and air spaces that provided maximum strength with minimum weight. This pneumatic bone structure, filled with air sacs connected to the respiratory system, made it possible for sauropods to support necks that would have been impossibly heavy if built with solid bone. The weight reduction achieved through pneumatization was so significant that even the largest sauropod necks weighed no more than the necks of modern giraffes. The sauropod respiratory system itself was a marvel of biological engineering that would later reach its full expression in birds. Like modern birds, sauropods possessed an extensive network of air sacs that extended throughout their bodies, filling not only the bones, but also the spaces between organs. This system allowed for incredibly efficient oxygen extraction and may have been crucial to supporting the high metabolic demands of such enormous bodies. The process of breathing in sauropods was fundamentally different from that of mammals. Instead of the simple in-and-out breathing pattern used by mammals, sauropods employed a continuous flow system where air moved in one direction through the lungs. This unidirectional airflow allowed for more efficient gas exchange and better oxygen delivery to the massive muscles and organs of these giants. Feeding strategies among sauropods became increasingly specialized as different lineages exploited different layers of the Jurassic forest. While ARCHOSAURUS and its relatives used their long necks to browse on high vegetation, they were not simply reaching up to feed. Recent biomechanical studies suggest that sauropods used a variety of feeding strategies, including sweeping their necks from side to side to strip vegetation from a wide area. The diversity of sauropod feeding strategies is beautifully illustrated by the different neck structures seen in various species. Diplodocus, with its incredibly long whip-like neck and tail, may have used a more horizontal feeding posture to strip vegetation from a wide area around each feeding spot. Its neck was longer and more flexible than that of ARCHOSAURUS, allowing it to reach areas that other sauropods could not access. Brachiosaurus represented yet another approach to sauropod feeding. With its giraffe-like proportions, front legs longer than hind legs and head held high above its shoulders, Brachiosaurus could browse on vegetation 25 meters above the ground. Its chisel-like teeth were perfect for cropping the tough needles of conifer trees that dominated the Jurassic canopy. The teeth of different sauropod species were highly specialized for their particular diets. Camarasaurus possessed robust, spoon-shaped teeth that were ideal for cropping tough vegetation, while Diplodocus had pencil-like teeth that were better suited for stripping softer plant material. These dental specializations allowed different sauropod species to coexist in the same environments, without competing directly for the same food sources. The digestive systems of sauropods were equally impressive. To process the enormous quantities of plant material needed to fuel their massive bodies, sauropods developed digestive tracts that were essentially biological fermentation chambers. Their stomachs contained stones, gastroliths, that helped grind up plant material, while symbiotic bacteria in their intestines broke down cellulose and other tough plant compounds. Recent estimates suggest that the largest sauropods needed to consume between 200 and 400 kilograms of plant material every day, equivalent to stripping all the leaves from several large trees. This enormous food requirement meant that sauropod herds had to constantly move across the landscape in search of fresh vegetation, creating migration patterns that may have spanned thousands of kilometers. But the evolution of gigantic herbivores created new opportunities and challenges for the carnivores that hunted them. Theropod dinosaurs responded to the rise of sauropod giants with their own evolutionary arms race, developing larger sizes, more powerful weapons, and more sophisticated hunting strategies. Allosaurus, the apex predator of the late Jurassic, represented the theropod response to living in a world of giants. At 9 to 12 meters in length and weighing up to 2 tons, Allosaurus was large enough to pose a threat even to adult sauropods. Its skull was a masterpiece of predatory engineering, with long, sharp teeth designed for slicing through flesh, and powerful jaw muscles capable of delivering devastating bites. The hunting strategies employed by Allosaurus and other large theropods were necessarily different from those of smaller predators. While smaller theropods could rely on speed and agility to catch quick prey, large theropods like Allosaurus were built more for power than speed. Their massive leg bones and robust skull construction suggest animals adapted for delivering powerful attacks rather than sustained pursuit. The relationship between Allosaurus and its sauropod prey was complex and dangerous for both predator and prey. While juvenile and smaller sauropods were certainly vulnerable to predation, adult giants like Apatosaurus and Brachiosaurus were formidable opponents, capable of inflicting serious damage on attacking predators. Sauropod tails, some of which exceeded 15 meters in length, could be used as devastating weapons. Fossil evidence provides direct testimony to the violence of these prehistoric encounters. Allosaurus tail vertebrae have been found with damage consistent with impacts from sauropod tail clubs, while sauropod bones show bite marks that match the teeth of large theropods. These fossils preserve evidence of life and death struggles that played out in Jurassic ecosystems millions of years ago. One of the most famous examples of Jurassic predator-prey interaction is preserved in the fossil record of the Morrison Formation, where Allosaurus remains have been found in association with Stegosaurus fossils. Stegosaurus, while not a sauropod, was another iconic Jurassic giant that developed its own unique approach to surviving in a world of large predators. Stegosaurus evolved a defensive strategy based on passive protection and active deterrence. Its back was lined with large triangular plates that served multiple functions: thermoregulation, display, and protection. These plates contained extensive blood vessel networks that allowed Stegosaurus to regulate its body temperature by controlling blood flow to the plates. The tail of Stegosaurus was armed with 4 sharp spikes, the famous thagomizer, that could inflict devastating wounds on attacking predators. Biomechanical studies suggest that Stegosaurus could swing its tail with considerable force, using the momentum of its massive body to drive the spikes deep into an attacker's flesh. The coevolution between predators and prey during the Jurassic led to an escalating arms race that drove both groups to evolve increasingly sophisticated adaptations. Predators developed more powerful jaws, sharper teeth, and more efficient hunting strategies. Prey animals responded with better armor, more effective weapons, and improved escape tactics. This evolutionary arms race wasn't limited to interactions between individual predators and prey. Evidence suggests that some Jurassic theropods may have hunted in coordinated groups, using pack tactics to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Fossil trackways show multiple theropods moving together in the same direction, possibly indicating cooperative hunting behavior. The social behaviors of Jurassic dinosaurs extended beyond hunting and defense. Sauropod trackways suggest that these giants traveled in herds that included individuals of different ages and sizes. The arrangement of tracks indicates that smaller, more vulnerable individuals traveled in the center of the herd, protected by larger adults on the outside. These herding behaviors would have provided numerous advantages for sauropods. Large groups could more effectively detect and respond to predators. They could share information about food sources and water locations. Most importantly, the sheer size of sauropod herds may have deterred all but the most determined predators. The Jurassic also saw important developments in dinosaur reproduction and parental care. Fossil evidence suggests that many dinosaur species built elaborate nests and engaged in complex parental behaviors. Some species may have returned to the same nesting sites year after year, creating dinosaur rookeries that supported large breeding populations. The discovery of sauropod nesting sites has revealed that even the largest dinosaurs began life as relatively small hatchlings. Newly hatched sauropods were vulnerable to predation and required protection from their parents. The rapid growth rates needed to reach adult size meant that juvenile sauropods had to consume enormous quantities of food while avoiding the many predators that threatened them. Plant communities during the Jurassic were dominated by gymnosperms, conifers, cycads, and ferns that formed complex, multi-layered ecosystems. These plants provided the enormous quantities of food necessary to support giant herbivores, but they also presented challenges. Gymnosperm vegetation was often tough, fibrous, and low in nutrition compared to modern flowering plants. The global climate during the Jurassic was warm and humid, with no polar ice caps and sea levels much higher than today. This greenhouse world supported lush vegetation across most continental areas and provided ideal conditions for large-bodied animals. The absence of temperature extremes meant that dinosaurs could remain active year-round across most of their range. Ocean levels were so high during parts of the Jurassic that many continental areas were flooded by shallow seas. These marine incursions created island systems and coastal habitats that supported unique dinosaur communities. Some sauropods may have been semi-aquatic, using their long necks as snorkels while wading through shallow lagoons and rivers. The success of Jurassic giants wasn't just about size. It was about the evolution of entirely new ecological relationships and physiological systems. Sauropods developed the most efficient vertebrate digestive systems ever documented, capable of processing enormous quantities of low-quality plant material. Their hearts had to pump blood vertically for distances of 15 meters or more to supply their brains with oxygen. Their nervous systems coordinated movements across bodies that stretched longer than modern blue whales did by the end of the Jurassic period. Dinosaurs had established ecological dominance across terrestrial ecosystems worldwide. They had evolved into forms of almost unimaginable diversity and size, from tiny feathered theropods no bigger than chickens to sauropod titans that weighed as much as modern sperm whales. But even greater diversity lay ahead in the Cretaceous period, when dinosaur evolution would reach its absolute peak. Epilogue: the endless journey as our comprehensive journey through 165 million years of dinosaur evolution reaches its conclusion. We find ourselves not at an ending, but at a new beginning. The story we've traced, from small archosaur reptiles in the shadows of Triassic forests to the magnificent giants that ruled the Mesozoic world, represents one of the most remarkable success stories in the history of life on Earth. The dinosaurs didn't simply dominate their world, they transformed it. They pushed the boundaries of what was possible for terrestrial animals, evolving forms of such spectacular diversity and size that they continue to capture our imagination millions of years after their extinction. From the nimble hunters, bigger than chickens, to the colossal sauropods that weighed as much as commercial aircraft, dinosaurs explored virtually every possible way of being a large land animal. Their innovations in locomotion, respiratory efficiency, and behavioral complexity set new standards for evolutionary achievement. The ARCHOSAURS breathing systems that evolved in dinosaurs and reached perfection in birds represent one of the most efficient respiratory designs ever evolved. The sophisticated social behaviors displayed by many dinosaur species rival those of modern mammals in their complexity and coordination. Yet perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the dinosaur story is not their size or their dominance, but their persistence. For over 160 million years, through multiple mass extinctions, dramatic climate changes, and the constant pressures of evolution, dinosaurs continued to adapt, innovate, and thrive. Their story is one of resilience in the face of adversity and creativity in the face of challenge. Today, more than 66 million years after the last non-avian dinosaurs walked the earth, their legacy surrounds us. Every bird we see represents a living link to the age of dinosaurs, carrying within its genes the evolutionary innovations that made dinosaurs so successful. The hollow bones, the efficient respiratory systems, the complex behaviors, all of these features that we admire in modern birds are legacies of their dinosaurian heritage. The scientific study of dinosaurs continues to revolutionize our understanding of evolution, extinction, and the history of life on Earth. New discoveries emerge regularly, each one adding new details to our understanding of these remarkable animals. Advanced technologies allow us to peer inside fossil bones, analyze ancient proteins, and even determine the colors of dinosaur feathers. But the importance of dinosaurs extends beyond science. They serve as ambassadors for natural history, inspiring children and adults alike to wonder about the ancient world and our place within it. They remind us that the Earth has a deep history filled with creatures of unimaginable beauty and complexity. They show us that our modern world is just the latest chapter in a story that stretches back billions of years. As we face our own uncertain future, the dinosaurs provide both warnings and inspiration. Their extinction reminds us that no species, no matter how successful, is immune to catastrophic change. But their 165 million year reign also demonstrates that life is remarkably creative and persistent, capable of recovering from even the most devastating setbacks. The story of Dinosaur. Evolution teaches us that change is the only constant in the natural world. What matters is not avoiding change, but adapting to it creatively and maintaining the flexibility to explore new possibilities when old ways of life become untenable. In this sense, the dinosaurs were evolution's greatest success story, not because they avoided extinction, but because they embraced change so completely that they ultimately transformed into something entirely new. Every time we watch a bird take flight, we are witnessing the continuation of the dinosaur story. The humble sparrow in our backyard carries within its DNA the legacy of Tyrannosaurus rex. The majestic eagle soaring overhead is a direct descendant of the giant sauropods that once shook the earth with their footsteps. The tiny hummingbird that hovers at our feeders embodies the same evolutionary innovations that made Triceratops and Stegosaurus such successful animals. This is the true legacy of the dinosaurs. Not just fossils in museums or images in movies, but living, breathing animals that share our world today. Their story continues to unfold in every migration, every nest built, every song sung by their feathered descendants. They remind us that evolution is not a process that happened in the distant past, but but an ongoing force that shapes life in every moment. The age of dinosaurs may have ended with an asteroid, but the age of their descendants continues all around us. In protecting birds and their habitats, we are protecting the living legacy of the most successful group of large land animals in Earth's history. In studying their fossils, we are uncovering the secrets of evolutionary success. In marveling at their achievements, we are celebrating the endless creativity of life itself. The dinosaurs have taught us that life is capable of achievements beyond our wildest imagination. They have shown us that evolution is not just about survival, but about the continuous exploration of new possibilities and the endless creation of beauty, complexity, and wonder. Their story is far from over. It continues in every bird that graces our skies and in every new discovery that expands our understanding of life's magnificent diversity. This is the legacy of the dinosaurs, a testament to the power of life, to create beauty from chaos, to find opportunity in catastrophe, and to persist in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Their story is one of evolution's greatest triumphs, and it continues to inspire us as we write our own chapter in the great book of life on Earth. The journey through deep time that we have taken together reveals the dinosaurs not as extinct monsters from a distant past, but as the ancestors of some of our planet's most beautiful and successful creatures. They are not gone, they have been transformed. They continue to fly above us, to sing to us, and to remind us that the story of life on Earth is far from finished. The respiratory systems of flying dinosaurs underwent dramatic modifications to support the high oxygen demands of powered flight. The ARCHOSAURS system that characterizes modern birds, with its unidirectional airflow and extensive pneumatization of bones, likely evolved during this period. This respiratory innovation was so efficient that it allowed birds to function at altitudes and activity levels that would be impossible for mammals with conventional lung systems. The cardiovascular systems of early birds also required major modifications. The four-chambered heart that completely separates oxygenated and deoxygenated blood became fully developed, allowing for more efficient oxygen delivery to active tissues. This cardiovascular efficiency was crucial for maintaining the high metabolic rates necessary for sustained flight. Brain evolution was equally important for the success of early birds. Flying requires sophisticated spatial processing, rapid reflexes, and precise motor control. The brains of early birds show enlargement of regions responsible for visual processing, balance, and motor coordination. These neurological innovations laid the foundation for the remarkable intelligence that characterizes many modern bird groups. The early Cretaceous saw an explosive radiation of early birds as different lineages explored the possibilities of aerial life. Confuciusornis, one of the most abundant early birds from China, possessed a toothless beak and well-developed flight capabilities. Some specimens preserve elaborate tail streamers that were likely used for display, showing that sexual selection played an important role in early bird evolution. The diversity of early Cretaceous birds was remarkable. Albaramasornis from Spain was a small sparrow-like bird with teeth and claws that suggest an arboreal lifestyle. Sonornis from China had well-developed flight muscles and modern wing proportions. Catharinus possessed a keeled sternum for flight muscle attachment, indicating powerful flight capabilities. These early birds occupied a wide range of ecological niches. Some were insectivores that caught prey on the wing. Others were seed-eaters that fed on the ground. Still others were fish-eaters that plunged into lakes and rivers to catch aquatic prey. This early ecological diversification established many of the feeding strategies that characterize modern birds. The late Cretaceous witnessed even greater bird diversity as these flying dinosaurs continued to experiment with different lifestyles and body plans. Hesperornis and Extinctions from late Cretaceous North America demonstrate how quickly early birds diversified into specialized ecological niches. Hesperornis was a flightless, diving bird that had secondarily lost the ability to fly. This meter-long aquatic specialist was perfectly adapted for underwater pursuit of fish, with streamlined body proportions, powerful swimming legs, and sharp teeth for grasping slippery prey. The evolution of flightlessness in Hesperornis shows that even early in bird evolution, some lineages were willing to abandon flight when other lifestyles proved more advantageous. Extinctions represented the opposite, extreme, a highly aerial seabird with powerful flight capabilities and sophisticated fishing behaviors. This tern-like bird had sharp teeth for catching fish, but possessed all the flight adaptations of modern seabirds. Its discovery demonstrated that powered flight had been fully mastered by late Cretaceous birds. The coevolution between early birds and flowering plants became increasingly important during the Cretaceous. As angiosperms diversified and spread across the globe, they provided new food sources for birds in the form of nectar, fruits, and seeds. Some early birds evolved specialized beaks and tongues for accessing these new food sources. The relationship between birds and insects also became more complex during this period. Flying insects provided abundant prey for aerial insectivores, while ground-dwelling insects supported birds that foraged on the forest floor. The evolution of sophisticated hunting techniques allowed birds to exploit insect prey more efficiently than ground-dwelling dinosaurs. Nesting behaviors became increasingly sophisticated among Cretaceous birds. Evidence suggests that some species built elaborate nests, engaged in complex courtship displays, and provided extended parental care to their offspring. These behaviors required advanced social cognition and communication abilities. The evolution of song and complex vocalizations likely occurred during this period, though direct evidence is lacking due to the poor preservation potential of soft tissues involved in sound production. However, the brain structures associated with vocal learning in modern birds show similarities to those found in some fossil bird skulls, suggesting that at least simple vocalizations had evolved. Migration behaviors may also have evolved during the Cretaceous as birds developed the physiological and navigational capabilities necessary for long-distance travel. The ability to migrate allowed birds to exploit seasonal resources and avoid harsh environmental conditions, providing significant survival advantages. By the end of the Cretaceous period, birds had diversified into many of the ecological niches they occupy today. There were seabirds, forest birds, ground-dwelling birds, and even flightless birds that had secondarily lost the ability to fly. This early radiation established the foundation for the incredible diversity of modern birds. The success of birds during the Cretaceous was built on the same innovations that had made their dinosaurian ancestors successful: behavioral flexibility, physiological efficiency, and evolutionary adaptability. But birds had added the revolutionary capability of powered flight, which opened up entirely new ecological opportunities and survival strategies. The evolution of birds from dinosaurs represents one of the most complete and well-documented evolutionary transitions in the fossil record. From simple filamentous feathers to complex flight adaptations, from ground-dwelling predators to aerial acrobats, this transformation demonstrates the incredible creativity and adaptability of evolutionary processes. But perhaps most importantly, the evolution of birds ensured that dinosaurs would not disappear entirely when the Great Extinction came. When an asteroid brought an end to the age of giant dinosaurs 66 million years ago, their feathered descendants were already well established in aerial niches that would help them survive the catastrophe and inherit the post-extinction world.